I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? How dare you?
How dare you?
Hello, how's everybody doing? Welcome back to the Opinionated Idiot YouTube channel. It's Saturday night, March 18th, 2023. How's everybody doing this weekend? Is everybody having a good weekend? I hope you all are. So I didn't do anything today. I literally just sat home and ate food all day. I'm super bloated. I feel like crap. It's just one of those days. I just was having like a downer day. And, my spirits were low. I don't know, just having one of those days. So I said, you know what? It's not normally a day that I would stream, but I'm going to get on and do some streaming tonight. I didn't see any streams up. So I'm like, I might as well take advantage of this time. I'm not sure if anybody's around, but we'll jump on and do a show. So hello, everybody. Welcome. I see a lot of my channel members, my moderators hanging out. We'll pull up some of the chats here in a minute, but I want to give some context to the show. So I was sitting around today thinking of, what can I do here? What can I do for a show? And I just started kind of doing some research around on the interwebs, and I noticed a little while ago, Carrie Rawson was being, if anybody is not familiar with Carrie Rawson is the daughter of Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, and a lot of her name was being brought up, and her father's name in relation to the Bryan Kohberger case. And I said, wow, this is really interesting. And I started reading some articles and did a little bit of a deeper dive, and saw that she did some media, some mainstream media, and some smaller content media as well too, and did some interviews. And so I just sat there and I literally went, yeah, maybe I'll shoot her an email and see if she'd come on the show sometime. So I shot her an email, and this was her response. So let me just widen this up a little bit. Unfortunately, she's not going to be on the show. Maybe down the line, I could probably try to get her in here, but I wrote her and I just, hey, Kerri, hope this email finds you. My name is Bryan. I'm the host of the Opinionated Idiot YouTube channel. Probably not a very professional name, but anyway, I went on with my context, and I just said, hey, the channel covers true crime and political subjects. I'm reaching out to you because I've been following Bryan Kohberger case and recently came across your interview on the Interview Room, where you talked about the comparison between your father. I'm just going to do this between your father and some of the similarities in the relationship to Bryan Kohberger. I'd like to invite you to join me for a 1 to 2 hour stream where we can discuss the theories and similarities of the Kohberger case. I believe your perspective would add tremendous value to our conversation, and I'd be excited to have the opportunity to share your thoughts and insights and opinions with my audience. We'll be using StreamYard and can send you the link to join ahead of time. And if you have any questions on the topic, I have a few questions on the topic I'd like to send you. Like any live events, we'll have the chance to engage our viewers in real time and answer the questions they may have if they choose. If you're interested in joining me for the live stream, please let me know. and we'll finalize the details. I'm confident that our conversation will be both enjoyable and informative for the viewers. Please be confident that I treat every guest and topics with respect. I'm honored about your possibility of having you as a guest. Thank you for your time and consideration. I look forward to hearing from you. Bryan, best regards, Bryan. I just left the link to the channel. I didn't think I was going to get a response. A little while after, she wrote me back and just said, and her email address is public, just so people know. It's on her website. So I'm not doxing her or anything. And she just said, thanks, I appreciate the offer, but I'm currently stepping back from meeting to finish my second book. So I need to decline at this time. So she said she declines at this time. Doesn't necessarily mean that the window is closed. And maybe in a couple of months when her book is ready or after her book is finished, I'll engage her again and see if I can get her on the show. But I thought what I would do this evening is, there's a fantastic interview, and don't worry, guys, I'm going to get to the chat here in a second. I see you guys all chatting. We'll pull some of them up in a minute. I saw a fantastic interview on the interview room. It's retired homicide detective Chris McDonough did an interview with Kerri about a month ago, and they talked about the relationship and the similarities between Bryan Kohberger and Dennis Rader, her father. And as we know, BK studied at DeSales University under the tutelage of the BTK expert Catherine Ramslin. She had an academic relationship with BTK and a friendship as well too. And we know that Bryan studied under her at DeSales. So Kerri's so I was reading some articles, and it said, once the news broke, and the Idaho case broke, that Kerri kind of took to Twitter and said that she was just completely sick to her stomach after she found out kind of that connection and relationship. Kohberger studying under Ramslin, and just knowing that connection, that possibly he could have written her father. And she said a lot of criminology students do that. They do write and talk to him. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to pull up that interview and we'll go through it. It's kind of a watch party, so it's going to be another relaxed stream. We'll just kind of sit back, and I have an incredible show planned tomorrow. But tonight's just kind of a Saturday hangout. I know that people will come and go throughout the stream. Feel free. If you have to leave, it's fine. But we'll play this interview, and I found it very engaging. Kind of scrubbed through it today, and it's really, really, really good. So you're not going to want to miss that. Let me just go back to the beginning here. I saw tons of people in the chat. Crazy P is in the chat. Hello, how are you this evening? And O'Brien is here. Greetings from Florida. We have Cranky back here. That's another channel member. And he's Crazy P already hitting it with the chat. So make sure to hit and subscribe and turn those notifications on. Yes, Dr. Bob is in the house. Dr. Bob, I hope you are feeling better this evening. MRG, I'll get this right sometimes. My brain always wants to go to MGR, but MRG in the chat. Hello, how are you? Danielle is here. Thank you so much for joining this evening. Teresa is in the house as well. Saturday Night Music here. Yes. And we have someone watching from New York. That's awesome. Chris Pepper says, good evening. Smash that like button. Chris and I were corresponding through email earlier. We had some great conversation in there. North Carolina. Oh, great. I love North Carolina. I was down in Charlotte a few years ago, and I'll tell you, in a couple of years, that's definitely going to be my retirement spot, or be down there. Chris P saying, be happy. Daniel's in the house. What else we got? We have Chosen Rosen's in the house. What's up, buddy? How are you? Glad you could join me on this Saturday night. So again, we're going to pull up the interview here. Very laid back stream this evening. We're just going to sit back, enjoy this interview. Feel free to chat. We can stop, pause, talk. Phone lines are open. Let me get my crawler going here on the end of the screen, on the screen here. Phone lines are open, 774-855-9400. If you want to call, chat, talk about Kohberger, talk to me, whatever you want to do, the phone line is always open for all of you. So if you want to comment on the show, feel free. feel free. But we'll get this fired up in a minute. Let me just check something here really quick, and then we'll get this fired up and going. Probably about a 2-hour show this evening. I know that people come and go, and that's completely fine. So let's get this going. We're going to pull this up. And big shout out to the interview, Chris Mundunif on the interview room. If you guys haven't, go over and sub on his channel. He does great live streams and commentary. All right, here we go, guys.
And of course, our special guest tonight, Kerri Rawson,
Should I go
daughter
big or
of
small?
Dennis
Big?
Rader,
You want me
the
here?
serial
Or do you guys
killer
want me here?
BTK. Guys and
What do you guys
gals,
want
if you
me?
want to see their
Number one
their
or number two?
profiles and their bios,
Number one
it's
or
going to
number
be
two?
below tonight.
What's better for you
Please
guys?
take a look. With that,
Type it in the
let's
chat. Number one or
welcome our
number two?
distinguished
Number
panel.
one view, number two view.
Guys and gals,
Doesn't matter to
welcome
me.
this
Whatever
evening.
makes it easier for you guys.
Thanks,
Thanks, Chris. Great to be here with
Type
you.
it in the chat for me.
It's good to see each and every one of you.
One.
Boy,
All right, we'll stay here.
this is I get a chill when I talk when I think about, okay, we've got the A team. They're all in the same room, you know, and
I'll
how
let
do
you know, this was done about a month ago. So
yeah, you know, how
new
where are we going
details
to go
obviously
here?
have happened.
I want to
since
get
then.
into this tonight, not only for the sake of our audience, but you know, just to make sure that we cover a lot of things. So, the tonight's show is about the anatomy of violence, and we couldn't think of anything better than to kind of correlate.
I wish I could just get this center screen a little bit bigger. I hope StreamYard fixes that.
You know, between
we can
Dennis Rader
expand that a little bit.
and of course
Kinda
Bryan,
customize
and I'm just going to call him Bryan tonight, okay, who's allegedly, you know, charged for the death of Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan. All right, so let's talk about, first of all, tonight, let's break this into a couple of parts. But the first part I want to go at is I want to talk about their different personality types and the red flags within their personalities. And are there familiarities between the two of them? So that's the first question to the panel. What say you? And we'll start with Dr. Picotto, and then Ann and Greg, and anybody else that wants to jump in, feel free to jump.
So in general terms, I think what we're looking at when we see people who could commit these kinds of offenses is probably that they're somewhere in the personality disorder realm. And when we look at people who commit these offenses, we can see anything from the narcissistic to some degree of psychopathy, or what some people call sociopathy, straight through to sadism, which I like to place on a spectrum. And then about 50% of these highly.
It's a good question, Frank. Why do you think Bryan risked his education and future for this? You know, I think a lot of these things is what we find out, that a lot of these particular behaviors start at a very, very young age. It's almost something that's imbrued in their brain, you know, like this this dysfunction. You know, as we know about, like, Jeffrey Dahmer, how all of that, you know, asphyxiation with death and dying and killing, and it starts, you know, usually with animals and small animals. And we knew that about Dahmer, that he I think killed dogs and cats and kept their bones in boxes, and they just became very fixated with that. And then obviously after you know, animals, it starts getting turned on to humans. But as far as risking his education and future, I don't think that he has any particular control. And again, I'm speculating. I'm not an expert on this. These are just types of things that I learned through reading and watching, you know, particular crime type programs. But if I was to speculate about it and give my opinion, I think this is just something that's inside. It's just a behavior, that's something that's wrong inside the brain, something that's psychologically not firing correctly. But what I get from this guy, as I'm starting to kind of see more about and understand more about him, I think that he's relishing in this right now. He loves the limelight on him. He's going to love every aspect of, you know, if this goes to trial, walking in front of those cameras, getting inside that courtroom, all eyes on him. I think that he's been wanting this for a very, very long time, almost kind of that me against the world type of thing. Struggled with drug addiction, was picked on, rejected by women. We're finding out all these particular details about him. Didn't have really great social interactions, with people and friends. So I think he's been waiting for this. I think he loves this attention. You got to think all these women are writing him in prison now. All these people are talking about him. It's just super narcissistic personality disorder, super narcissistic tendencies. And that's kind of where I think on this. And just wanting to, I guess, maybe be someone, and now all eyes are on him. So that, if you're asking me, that would be my opinion. So born with, not made by society. No, I think born with, but certain particular things can obviously trigger people into maybe those behaviors. But I think deep rootedly, this is a lot of just psychological things that you're born with. Your brain is not functioning correctly. There's something wrong, whether you can help it or not. That's kind of how I look at it. Like people that are just born with depression, people that are just born with suicidal tendencies. I think it's something that's deep rooted in your brain that you're born with, and may come out after time, or may be triggered by something and come out, after time. So it's very interesting to look into the brains of these people that commit these particular crimes. And I'm just going to be very interested once all of the case evidence comes out in this case, where we can sit back, and I like peeling back the layers like an onion and kind of looking and exposing all of those things, and being able to kind of look at all the evidence that we've had so far and say, okay, well, maybe this is why it got triggered, or maybe this is why things happened here. This is maybe the cause of those deep psychological issues. So it's going to be really interesting. I'm very, very curious. Very curious. Lee's in the house. How are you, Lee? Thanks for joining this evening. But we'll play on here, guys. Just if you have any questions, pop them up there in the chat.
Sadistic and psychopathic people.
Very, very laid back stream this evening. Just kind of a Saturday night hangout.
Will also have schizoid personality traits, meaning that they're odd, detached, mechanical people who can experience a total intellectual distance from their offenses.
And if you guys are wondering, like, why have you been streaming like on your off nights? I've been on a staycation this week. So my goal was to try to stream every single day or night that I could, just to get some more material out on my channel. But certainly actually starting tomorrow, I'm going to go back on my regular schedule, Sunday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And would seem to other people to be rather peculiar. Embedded within those personalities, you also have what are called paraphilias, which are kind of abnormal, aberrant, perverse sexual pleasures that people experience towards living things, which distinguishes them from fetish, which requires an object or an action. So that with a paraphilia, what you're looking at is somebody who is perversely attracted to a certain group, like, for example, children or adults.
See, and they're kind of going back to Cranky's question. They're kind of going through all those psychological disorders now. So this is actually really interesting. And it was a great question that you brought up actually just before this. So
adolescents that are underage or who needs to engage in an action involving people, like calling them up and saying perverse words and hanging up quickly, or peeping or stealing their underwear, tickling in a violent way, needing to tie someone up, needing someone to pretend to be a corpse or actually be dead. And we see a wide array of those within these individuals. Most of the serial offenders we see are going to fall into one of these buckets that we just described. And we can certainly say that with confidence about BTK. It's been well established that Dennis Rader is somebody that would be considered psychopathic, narcissistic, sexually sadistic. Kerri can certainly speak about that. That's been well established by numerous people. We can only speculate about that with regard to Bryan, but I think one could read into some of the things of which he's accused and begin to paint the picture of somebody who may have traits like that, but we simply don't know yet. And finally, what I'll say is that the personality can additionally have features of other conditions, like some offenders, including Dennis Rader, and I think it's been said probably Bryan, can have a very obsessional quality, paranoid quality, overly meticulous, kind of controlling, which kind of goes also with the narcissism. And people like that can additionally authentically have mental illness that can feed the condition. A lot of them will authentically be depressed, or authentically be anxious, or authentically be sometimes even psychotic, although that's quite unusual. So I think you can really see the gamut, but most are going to fall into that personality disordered and paraphilic kind of camp.
Okay, Dr. Burgess?
Yes, I would certainly echo everything that Dr. Mercado has said. I think a couple of
All right,
other
guys, I'm
things
doing
that
some business
have
really
been
quick.
suggested
I'm
about
working on an upgrade for my channel right
Bryan
now. I have someone
is he, or
actually
the question
working
has
on a
been
new
asked, could
intro
he be
video
what's
for my
called an
live stream.
incel?
So I'm really excited
This
about
is
that.
becoming more and more
And I'm just paying
popular
for the
in the
service right now
writings
so we
and
can
some of
start the
research.
work.
And these are people that very much
So I'm not ignoring you guys. I'm
capture
getting
what
some business taken
Dr.
care of.
Mercado has said, but they have a misogynist approach. They, for some reason, have great anger towards women. They feel they've been used by women, or they are not appreciated by women, kind of thing. So there is that, and they develop a lot of hate and focus that. It kind of becomes a paranoid piece, I think, is what happens there. So I think that's interesting to think about. It's just something that has been asked. Some of the other matters, I'm going to let Kerri talk about her father, because she certainly has a very, I think, a very solid approach to it. These are people, both of them, who have been able to fool many people. They have this second life, or opposite life, two sides of them, however you want to look at it, where they appear one way. I remember interviewing one person that said he even had three ways that he dealt with the world, not only with his family, but with his work, and then with the community. So in this case, certainly Bryan, being a student, which is going to be very interesting because he had to interact with both college students as well as family. And the other, I think, that has come out in the weeks, has his approach to try to become a research assistant, I think, at the Washington State University. That's very, very interesting, and was turned down. Obviously was turned down. So we can talk a little bit about that and what that means. So those are just some of the ideas that I have just looking at these two. How many had differences? How many had similarities? We could look at that. Certainly the BTK, Dennis Rader was much older than Bryan, at least now, but not when he started. If I understand, they were.
All right, guys, I'm done. I'm sorry about that. That was rude.
Committed their first crime.
Just had to get this business taken
The
care
other,
of.
I think, one thing
Kristen's in
is
the chat.
that people have been looking at is, have they committed crimes before? That's always the question comes up. And would they commit crimes afterwards?
I got a couple questions here. Let's see. Sorry, guys. Kristen says, I like how you used to put your face really close to the camera in your intro. I don't like the long intros. Yeah, you know what? I kind of took that intro away because I got some crap about it, because I was kind of like smiling and laughing, and I just kind of felt like it was inappropriate to what I'm doing. So I'm working with a gentleman right now that's actually doing because I have a live stream intro. You guys know that. I'm revamping that whole thing there. I have a gentleman that's working on it right now. Hopefully that'll be done by next week. So you're going to get a minute-long intro before I go live. The reason I'm doing that is it gives you a little bit of time. So if you are not here to watch the stream right away, it gives you some time to come in. It will get you a notification, come in, and it's just like a proper intro to a live stream. I like a countdown and a build up to get the stream going, like a radio show or a program, like when you watch a sitcom or something like that. I want this to be a professional, show. I want to turn this into a live stream podcast sometime where I can eventually, hopefully the channel grows big enough. I get it out of my bedroom and I get my own studio someday. That's my dream. So I can actually bring in live guests and have them sit with me instead of doing, stuff through StreamYard. But anyway, I digress on that. So I'm working with someone, revamping my long intro right now. I want to see what kind of work they do on that. And maybe I'll do something with them where they can do some small stings for the intro and outros of my videos. But yeah, I kind of took away the kind of goofy, laughy. I know it's fun, it's playful, but it just didn't really sit well with a bunch of people. They were commenting, they're like, it's kind of crappy that you're kind of smiling. And I just felt it was kind of inappropriate for the channel. But I digress on that, but thank you for bringing that up. O'Brien says, Brian, who are the other people in the video with BTK? So they're just more, they're doctors and psychological experts that have written books on true crime, have been in the industry probably for years, psychologists, psychiatrists, stuff like that, medical doctors. So they're just kind of getting some perspective in all those respected fields. Chat, do you think his family knew he had issues? Well, most certainly. I mean, they know that he struggled with a drug addiction. I think that they knew that he had some type of mental illness as well too. There's been some chat and conversations out there on the internet about that as well. So I do feel that there's some kind of standing mental illness going on, in my opinion. Let's see. Okay, I think I'm all caught up. O'Brien says, I think the music in Countdown is wicked. Thank you. I'm still going to use the Countdown song that I have, but the intro is going to be completely different. From what I've seen what this guy can do, it looks pretty good and pretty slick. So I'm excited to see what I told him what I wanted and see how his vision kind of turns out. And hopefully it lines up with my vision. So Dr. Bob says the caution here is that because we don't know all the facts yet, it's hard to diagnose BK effectively at this point. 100%, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think BTK did drugs. He might have been a drinker. No, I was talking about Kohberger. We know that he struggled with heroin. It's been documented and put out there. So, but anyway, let's keep playing through the video because we got a long
We know
show.
that Dennis Rader did before he was finally caught.
Yes.
And I think there's been pretty much consensus that Brian, if he wasn't arrested, would have.
Yes, this
also.
is true.
Interesting. So we'll go to Greg and then Kerri and Dean, if you want to jump in after that, feel free on this first question. So Greg, what do you think?
I don't know really how much I can add to that. I can give you
Phone lines are open,
774-855-9400.
if you want to call, say hi, tell me you're a fan of the show. If you want to comment on BK or BTK, please do. Phone lines are open.
One of the commonalities that we see across the board, and I think
Supernatural, how are you? Thanks for joining the stream.
Is an inherently low
I love my
self-esteem.
members and my moderators.
They may
so helpful. In the
have
chat.
a desire, of course, rather they may engage in those activities that look just the opposite. For example, we've got Brian that's getting his PhD in criminology.
If anybody sees SC coming in the chat, let me know because I have to add her back as a moderator. I took her out she was in the wrong moderating status the other night, so I took her out. I just got to add her back on.
As referenced Dennis Rader, you've got numerous different types of job scenarios where he acquired a position of authority, as an example, or a leadership role in some capacity. But I think you find this inadequate personality type and a fixated need, even an obsession.
Underwear video. What's that? Tell me what the underwear video is. near the house. I haven't heard that one. Yeah, sure. If you want to call, like I said, phone lines open 774-855-9400.
of trying to satisfy a otherwise very
What's the
low
underwear
self-esteem
video? I
and-
never
and
heard of
trying
that.
to compensate, overcompensate.
Who is it one of these
In a very
from one of these conspiracy channels, or is it proven factual news? That's but yeah, if you want to call, like I said, phone lines are open. I'm gonna turn my speaker on here. Hopefully it works. We should be in sync. Feel free to call anybody.
ultimately a very
Phone
violent
lines are
way.
here.
And typically with those victims
Hey, I got 50 people
who,
watching and only
for themselves,
24 uploads. You need
do not pose much of a
smash
threat, if much at
button,
all, or
guys.
any at all.
Smash.
So they ensure their own success.
Come on, man. Come
Certain
on,
types of
man.
victims,
Come
certain
on, man.
times,
Come on, man.
and situations and circumstances where they would commit their assault. I think
It's
that,
on the crawl. If you see it below me,
as it relates to women,
855
partially,
9400.
I think
Heather
the
is dropping by
so-
to say hello. Hello.
Did we lose Greg for a
and that they
second?
would have excessive
I haven't heard
ability
this
to
one.
have
You guys
power,
need to call.
domination,
Let
and
me
control.
know.
Am I on?
Yeah, you're back. Go ahead. Keep going.
Whoops.
Yep.
We're okay. Sorry. That I think there's an excessive amount of need to have power and domination and control over women, particularly. And why is that? Well, I think if you go into the backgrounds of these individuals, you'll find that an inadequate personality and an inability to socialize well and be accepted with women generally, but more particularly those women who they may prefer to be in their lives. And then engage in not just violence, but sexual violence, and to have the ultimate power. Number one, the sexual assault. The only thing that exceeds the power of sexual assault would be to decide whether or not they're going to allow the victim to live or die. And when you merge those two together, it's the ultimate ability and experience, as we understand it from talking with these folks, of satisfying the crescendo, if you will, of power and control over another human being.
Okay.
So those are some of the thoughts.
Carrie, what do you think?
Opinionated idiot. Hello.
My earphone. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, this is Leah.
Hey.
I'm calling since you're showing this video about mental health and all.
Yeah.
I'm calling about police cam that plunged her YouTube channel showed, and it was in March of 2022. There, and this girl, and it's on police cam. It's all videoed.
Mm-hmm.
Brett was one of the cops that were there.
Right.
And she got home one night at like 9:30.
Mm-hmm.
She went in, got her stuff. Everything seemed fine with her car. The next morning, she came out, and stuff in her car was put in a suitcase. Her suitcase was found on the side of the road. Her underwear from her suitcase was put in the cup holder in her car. There was a footprint in the driver's seat, and the police tried to get a picture of it and size it and all. And they kept asking her if it was a prank, and she said no, she don't know who would be playing a prank on her.
Right.
So they didn't steal anything. They just basically messed with her stuff and moved it around in her car, and then did that with her underwear, and it really freaked her out. And I just wanted to put that out there, that somebody like that was, and this girl lives right by the 1122 King House.
Really? You said there's video of this.
Yes, that's what I was talking about.
Can you
see the video? You can see that. Yeah, I'll email it.
All right, email it to me. Email it to me. We'll pull it up on the show and we'll look at it. Yeah, that's great. I haven't even seen that.
Let Okay, the one, yeah, I just saw one today that had a better view
Sure.
of the police cams.
Okay.
But let me give you Plunders. I'm gonna send you Plunders video.
Yeah,
Let me
send.
go to her channel
Great.
and I'll email it to you.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
All right. Thanks
Bye-bye.
for calling. Bye-bye. All right. We got a little material of a video that I have not seen yet, so we'll check that out. But until then, we'll just keep playing through. Lee, email that to me. Don't let me see. Let's see if she sent it. But we'll wait for that. We'll keep playing through until that comes up. I'll keep my my email open and we'll pull that video up.
Oh,
We can
several
talk
things
about
here.
it.
So with my dad, he's reported specifically in Dr. Ramsland's book when he worked on that one. So my dad's self-reporting here. So remember, we have to remember we're
Only 28
talking about a
likes. There's
narcissist
50
and
people in
pathological
here right now,
liar.
guys. You got to go down and
My
smash.
dad is a sexual sadistic
like button.
psychopath, like Gary said. When he was young, he has self-reported that he was window peeping by like 7 or 8, wanting women's lingerie, underwear when he was young.
Danielle, we're gonna get into that tomorrow on tomorrow night's show. I got an action-packed show tomorrow with all of that information in it.
Interested in bondage when he was young. He said he got exposed to some of those old detective magazines from the 1950s that like had actual crime scene photos. There was a killer in California that was luring women with photography and then taking their photos. And all of this was like in these magazines, these cult
Wow,
magazines
really?
back then. So he said he was exposed to this when he was young. So he said he became interested kind of in bondage. I know that he was torturing animals, strangling and practicing on them.
So this is Carrie Rawson. She's speaking about her father, BTK, right now. And as you can see, like we talked about in the beginning of the show, a lot of these tendencies started when he was very young.
Before he strangled people in 1974. Breaking and entering, he said by the time he was like 12 into his old school.
We'll get to it,
There's
Danielle.
actually an issue there in school when he was in kindergarten. I think my dad was supposed to be left-handed. I'm left-handed, but you're talking about 1950. And he said that they wouldn't let him be left-handed and they held his hand behind his back. Now, if this is true, is this sort of where some of the bondage stuff came from? I don't know. I don't think it's enough, but it could be some sort of thing he associates definitely with that. And also forcing somebody to use the wrong hand, it screws up your brain. And so my dad is very well known for not being very literate. His handwriting's messy. He can't spell. I can't spell either. So, but I do believe my dad was supposed to be left-handed. And mention age. My dad was 28 at the same time when he started his first kills in 1974 with the Oteros. Kohberger just turned 28 right after. Definitely OCD tendencies we saw in my house, like wanting to be in control, always wanting to be the most powerful in charge in the room, especially inside. He would relax outside. Something Anne said was about somebody showing different sides. She mentioned somebody that would show 2 or 3 sides. We talked about cubing on here. Dad showed multiple sides. I mean, he had his side with his family. He had his side with his bigger family. He had his work side, community side, church side. Even like when he would talk to like law enforcement or building game people, scouts, it was like he was a different person in each of these scenarios, just a little bit, like he would just change a little bit. So it would be interesting to ask him how many different people do you think he was? But Dad calls it cubing, a term he came up with Dr. Ramsland, where he's just flipping who he's showing you. One of the ways he did blend in, but I don't know if it was intentional. I just think he did it. And Dr. Ramsland mentioned the crime lab, the research assistance thing. We can get to
Thanks,
that
guys.
here
I appreciate your efforts in the chat room.
Okay, Dean, what do you think? Start us up with your thoughts here as well.
I think the one thing that just kind of sticks out to me as I'm listening to all this is that we're looking at 2 individuals and we're looking at them at the same age for their first crime. The one thing that fascinates me about it is with BTK, we were able to see over a long period of time that development. I mean, I think when you were born, Kerri, he'd already committed, quite a few murders. And it was one of the things that struck me when I read your book was just that, I think a lot of times people say, well, why didn't people catch it or see it? But I think for you, especially, and your brother, you guys were born into it. It was already happening, and it was the environment that you were born into. But I also was kind of, I guess, not surprised, but it was really interesting to me when you describe how your family was taught.
Yeah, we had a caller earlier. Yeah, I get it, Lee. It's a long video. 2 months ago. All right, we'll pull up a little bit of this and see what Plunder has to say. She's killing it over there on her channel, but let's pull that up. But before I pull it up, let's do this. Give me 6 more upvotes and I'll pull up the Plunder video. We can walk through that. Okay. So I just need 6 more upvotes before I pull up that Plunder video. So we need 6. So 6 people in here just need to hit that upvote button. Only 6, and then we'll pull up this Plunder video. Come on, guys. We got to get it to 40. We just got to get it to 40 likes. That's it. 40 likes. That's it. We got 36. Come on. We only need 3. Come on, 4 more, guys. Please. 4. 4 more, and we'll get that video pulled up. I promise. And then 37. Come on, we're almost there. 3 more. People can be listening while cleaning. Yeah. Beepsy BB says she's got hers in. Thank you so much. We're so close. We're at 38. Come on.
Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Come on.
Come on. We can do it. We can do it. 39. We're almost there. One more.
Come on, man.
We got it. We're gonna pull this up. 1 more upvote. There's 56 people. Just go down and smash the like button. Just be one person. Lisa isn't listening while driving. We're almost at 40. I already spent my upvote. Yes, we got it. We got it, baby. We got it.
I got you, homie.
All right. Thank you so much. Let's go on with the show. All right. Let's check out Plunder. Oh.
Received and watched. It is from the
Shout out to
Moscow
Plunder, by
Police
the way.
Department in Idaho. And this footage is a little disturbing based on what it reveals about a would-be criminal. In this body cam footage, we're going to see a neighbor of the 1122 King Road.
I have not seen this video. So Lee, thank you so much for getting that over to me. I have not seen this. The thing is, there's so many videos. There's so many videos on Idaho right now. There's so many videos. So there's things that I may not see, I may pass by, but we'll play this out. That's a good pickup.
House, the infamous house where the horrible slayings of 4 University of Idaho students happened on November 13th,
Shout out to Plunder, by the way.
2022. So I'm filming this Thursday, December 22nd, and what I've seen, I've taken notes on, and I'm about to play for you the entire body cam footage, and you'll see what you think. I requested from Moscow Police a lot of body cam footage related to the 1100 block of King Road, because sometimes that's the way incidents appear in the police log related to 1122 King Road. Well, today they sent me 3 videos. I have more to come of other incidents, but
I'm going to tell you right now, I like her style already. She's clear. She's concisive. It doesn't sound like conspiracy theory stuff. I like her style.
today I wanted to go over.
Could be wrong though.
for this with you. One you will see playing nearby is just the dash cam footage of the officer on March 2nd, 2022. There's not much conversation caught in that video, so I will let it play as I talk. But I'm going to play uninterrupted the next two videos, the officer's body cam videos. I was attempting to see what calls happened at 1122 King Road, but this incident that happened in March of 2022, right nearby the 1122 King Road house, and I won't give this person's exact address. I'm not going to give her name or anything like that, but I'm wondering, could it be related to what would happen just 8 months later? I don't know exactly what day the victims moved into 1122 King Road. Zaina, Ethan, Maddie, and Kaylee. I do remember seeing Kaylee in a TikTok video exactly 1 year prior to the slayings. So that would have been November 13th, 2021. And it's a funny video where some guy is going behind others and making like a weird faces and stuff. And you can see Kaylee in that video and it looks like she's in the infamous house. I believe Kaylee lived there previously, perhaps with Maddie too. I'm not sure with Zaina. I know that the newer surviving roommates, I believe, moved in a little bit more recently, perhaps the summer of 2022. Now that we know the details of this crime that happened only 8 months prior to the murders, showing that 1122 King Road house in the background, the cops reveal what they say about an uptick in people.
So we detoured a little bit off the video that I was going to show this evening, but it's okay. I have not seen this one yet. So I appreciate Lee for calling and sharing that. I hope this is okay with you guys. I'm cool with it. We're just chilling this Saturday night. So it's very casual, laid back Saturday. I appreciate all of you so far that has hung out, come into the chat. We got 57 people watching. Let's just get to 50. Just a nice round 50. Just a nice round 50. You guys can upvote for me. I would appreciate it.
Stealing cars and prowling through cars. And what this victim says in the body cam footage, it kind of paints a portrait of perhaps a local madman. Let me know what you think. And again, I don't know if it's related at all. I don't want to be one of those sleuths that's trying to conflate this with that. It just gives us more information about what occurred prior to leading up to this horrible, horrible crime in November. The call was for an unlawful entry. An unknown person entered this sorority girl's vehicle. It was sometime between, she wasn't sure, about 9 p.m. on March 1st. That was the last time she checked her vehicle that night. Sometime between 9 p.m. March 1st and 9:30 a.m. March 2nd. So what you're going to see are cops responding to that call. The girl had just driven home to King Road near the infamous house from Boise. She had arrived on March 1st at that house. She had arrived about 5 p.m. And so she went out later about 9 p.m. to get her TV out of her car. She had some pillows in there too. Everything was fine by 9 p.m. She is going to tell the officer, as you'll hear, she heard some weird voices coming from the direction of the 112.
And the first communication that he had in the area of 1122 King Road was on the 22nd of August. That's when his phone first pinged off one of the cell towers around 1122 King Road, which would be within a few miles of that residence.
To King House, it creeped her out. And that's not the only thing that creeped her out. The officer said, yeah, it's kind of a bowl. We heard that like a fish bowl and the way the noises perhaps echo. We heard that same sentiment during the September 1st, 2022 noise complaint body cam footage. I received that body cam footage as well, and I plan to put that in an upcoming video. But for now, let's watch this video where the girl is going to point in the direction of the 1122 King Road.
So I lost the date on this. When did this supposedly happen? Did she say March? If this is March of 22, this would have no relevance to Kohberger. Maybe you guys can help me out because he wasn't even out there. He was out there in August. On August 1st, is when he moved.
House. Talk about how the voices that night freaked her out. She went back in her house. The next morning she came out and someone had rummaged through her car. Not only that, they had taken different items from her car, put them inside of her suitcase.
This would have zero relevance to Kohberger. He wasn't even out there. He wasn't even out there. He was there on August 1st.
suitcase, zipped it up, and put the suitcase somewhere on the road. Her roommate
Gotcha.
found her suitcase. The odd part about it is this person, I'm assuming it's a man, what he did was not only take like different tickets or whatever she
I'm
had.
already going to tell you, I'm not going to go into the two-person theory because I don't think it's two people. I think they have the right person in custody. I can't get with the whole two people. If you think it's two people, they would have had them arrested right now. Oh, and by the way, everybody with this Enan Harsh guy, if you thought Enan Harsh was involved, he was over on Truth and Transparency just the other day, goofing and joking around with her over there. So if he was involved, he would have been arrested and behind bars. So that whole conspiracy, stop with that stuff. All those people that say, oh, he's involved, he's this and that. No, he's not. He would have been arrested by now and in jail.
Had random things, put them in her suitcase, zip it up, leave it outside in the road somewhere. He was probably planning to steal her car because her fuse box, something.
Yeah, it's just long and winded, very long and winded. Holy smokes. Let's go to the body cam footage. Oh, I'm going to kill the music though. Because I'm probably going to get booted for that. Yeah, he's 100% not involved. He was just over in Truth and Transparency the other day, chatting it up with her and goofing around and talking about food and all this other stuff. So I got a $5.50 Canadian super chat from, are you going to send, hang on a second. Mikey S is asking, going to send you an email, bro. A lot of things from early on that are coming full circle lately, even before the arrest, that might surprise you. Cool, man. Send them over. Let's take a look at it. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. I got to get to my soundboard. And
I got you, homie.
Thank you so much. And we'll continue here. I don't know. Oh, this music. I'm probably going to get banged for this music. So this body cam footage has 0 audio. Okay. Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like, I stay away from the twisting and let's do this. Let me get a little music going. I'll play some low music in the background because there's no music on this. Let's play that low music. I don't know if I can watch this. Where should I skip through? Where is this? Lee, where should I be in this video? Because this is going to be long. This is and there's no conversation. There's no audio. Yeah, I know he's not involved. I mean, it's like, stop tackling your boobs. Oh yeah, the girl. Where should I be on this, Lee? Do you know where about it is? When he gets there? Okay, let's see. All right, I got audio. Hang on, let me kill the music. I'll go back. I need a producer. Let me kill this music. Oh boy, I'm flobbing tonight, guys. I'm usually pretty good. All right, let me go back a little bit here. Let's see. We got audio. Okay. Here we go. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Heather. Got it, Leah. Thank you. Get to 50 likes, guys. I need 6 more. There's 6.
Yeah, she's right here.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hi there.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Okay, so this morning I just got
Good.
home from Boise yesterday.
Okay.
And this morning I like walked upstairs and my suitcase was inside, but I remembered leaving it in my car.
Copy.
I was like, asked my roommate to just open the door. I was like, hey, did you bring my suitcase up? And she's like, yeah, it was in the middle of the road. And I was like, that's weird.
Oh, your suitcase was in the middle of the road?
Yeah, it was like back over here, and I had it in the back of my car.
Oh,
so
interesting.
I was like, maybe I forgot and just left it out. And
Right.
So then I take it inside, and I open it, and all the stuff that I had, oh, I locked it. I should have mentioned this. But all the stuff I had up here, all my pay stubs, the stuff I had in the center console, my sunglasses I was literally wearing yesterday were all shoved inside my suitcase, and like it was like zipped back up. And
So everything that you had in your front seat was now in your suitcase?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's like a shoe print over here, and then there's like my fuse box under my steering wheel is like opened. I'll go get my keys. I just left it like
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was just trying to steal it. Why would you open the fuse box? Hot wire? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just look at maybe, listen. It could be someone that's just trying to steal shit, get money for drugs. I mean, I don't know. We'll keep watching through here, but I don't see anything right now. Kind of like, oh,
because we've been having those vehicle thefts.
A prowler, yeah. I mean,
Well, there's obviously no way
you got to think that school is literally like a block. You can see the university right there. Just walk through the field. So there's so many people in and out of that area. There's a lot of people that come in and out of that town. You have townies that kind of hang around. There's probably people in that area that have drug problems. They could be trying to get money for drugs or something like that. Maybe it's just, no, it's not. It doesn't have anything to do with any of them. It's neighbors that are actually down the street from King Road. So, all right.
Prints off this anyways.
Yeah, it could be a prank too. And that's what I think too. It was like a theft scared off type of thing.
Nothing cameras.
No, there's no cameras here.
You guys don't have a Ring doorbell camera or anything like that.
Listen, I understand that they didn't steal anything, but they could have potentially went to go steal anything, or they're just rumbling through crap. Maybe someone's screwing with her.
Oh, really?
That's smart.
I don't think any of our neighbors do either.
Yeah, I'm not seeing.
But we have like a Facebook page, so I was gonna ask on there. But like over here, like they didn't take anything. Like I had this ring up there, and they didn't even take it.
This is what I think.
But, like that
I think
little
it's
fuse
fine.
box is opened, and then there was a.
Is there any damage inside of it?
No, not that I can tell. I don't really know, but I'm just.
Is that your shoe print?
No.
You have your phone on you?
Yeah.
I sat on it though, so hopefully I didn't like mess it up.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much we can do with it, but it could. We've been having kind of an uptick in vehicle prowls, and say we find the suspect, and they find say he's wearing something that matches that tread. It just kind of. Now, I mean, it'd be really hard to.
Is that a Vans type shoe print?
Unless the person admitted and said, "Yep, I was there." I mean, which is highly unlikely. But so when did you get back from Boise? You said
I got back last night at like 5 p.m.
Okay, so 5 p.m. last night. And did you lock your car?
No.
Okay.
But I came back out here about 9 because my TV was in here and my like pillows. Except that I don't know. I like heard like someone like talking over there. It was really weird, and then I just grabbed it and went back.
You gotta think in that area. I mean, if you just look around, even all these houses, there's so many students that are in and around that area. They were talking about when all the mainstream media went out there. They said there's people that are walking around at all hours of the night. I mean, you even see that on a lot of the body cam footage that was released from that evening. I mean, all those kids walking across the field, they had the runners, they had people getting, pulled over. I mean, there's so many people in that area. So, I mean, this just could be someone just screwing with them. I don't see
because it's kind of a bowl right here. It's, I mean, people could be up in their backyards talking and
It freaked me out.
So 9 o'clock is when you last saw
Yeah, maybe there were
more condition.
panty snakes.
And your TV wasn't stolen?
No, because I grabbed it and I brought it inside. And
Okay.
there was. The only thing in here was my suitcase.
Where was your suitcase originally at?
Right.
So it was in the back.
It was like right here. And like this stuff was already in here.
Okay.
And they didn't touch it, but it was like right here. And so someone took everything from up there,
Maybe they're
put it in
into
the
that.
suitcase, and then left it outside.
Yeah, that's definitely odd. It's odd because your fuse box is open.
Yeah.
However, I'm not trying to like scare you or anything, but maybe they were trying to steal your car.
That's what we were.
Yeah.
So
Why are
we
you
have had
leave me my stuff.
yeah,
or something?
like I'm gonna be nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
So when your roommate came out here and found your suitcase in the road, was the hatch opened up?
I don't think so. I didn't ask her.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Or if the doors were open. I mean, okay. And then did they say what time that was?
Yeah. Hey, a few questions. When you grabbed my suitcase, did you see like were any of the doors open, like the hatch or anything?
No, just the suitcase was sitting outside of it.
And what time was that?
I say around 9:30.
Okay.
Last night?
This morning.
This morning. Okay, so between
Lee, we
9
get
o'clock
that.
last night and 9:30 this morning.
Yeah.
Okay.
We understand that her privacy was invaded. Absolutely. But I don't know. I don't see much here. I just think that there's just some creeps or some frat kids or someone running around. Probably took the opportunity. Maybe some of her housemates wanted to scare her a little bit, but yeah, that's kind of what I see here. But we'll play the panties in the cup holder part,
Okay,
and then
thank you.
I want to get back to that other video.
Okay.
Is there any damage to your vehicle?
Not that I can tell.
What about the fuse box, the little lid for that?
I don't know what it's like normally. The only thing I kind of noticed is like my hood thing. Like if you look down here, it looks like it's like bent like the other way a little bit.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, they might have been.
But the fuse box like lids on the ground.
Did you look inside the hood to see if
Yeah,
anything was tampered with?
I don't know what cars are supposed to look like. So
Okay, I mean, it's okay. Do you want us to look and check?
Yeah.
One more.
You want to pop the hood there, Chris?
50 likes.
I just saw it and it was like
Yeah.
a lot of wires.
Nope, it sounds like to me someone who might have been trying to maybe take your car, but
And I started my car already and it started.
I'm gonna have to.
Nothing wrong with it?
Here.
No.
Did you drive it?
I agree.
No. But
Okay.
I put it in reverse first so I can make sure the brakes will work.
Right.
And they work. I mean,
You know how to open your hood?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, so I ain't no mechanic, but obviously engine, your battery here,
Everything
2 batteries,
normal, I thought.
your alternators there. I don't see anything of notice.
That's good.
You said it seemed bent a little
Yeah,
bit.
it's like the hood, the thing that opens the hood.
Was there a little
Yeah, it's
lid on it before?
brown.
Oh, it is there though.
I
Okay.
just left it there.
Did it was it damaged?
No.
Okay.
For the fuse box,
Yeah.
I put that back in.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
So it clicked back in.
Yeah.
And obviously the hood.
Could be a hybrid car.
I'll put this
Could be a hybrid car.
Freaky though. I don't know why they shoved everything in my suitcase.
Can I get my case number? Honestly, I think you're right. I think if I took a wild guess, maybe they were trying to take your car and they were like,
We don't need these clothes.
Copy.
The stuff they put in my suitcase was so random. 'Cause
There's no
there's-
chance someone's playing a prank on you.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I don't see why anyone I know would ever do that.
Yeah.
But and then I found my underwear like shoved right there.
In the cup holder.
Yeah, and I took it out. But it was in there, and I was like, that's really weird.
and you said nothing's missing of your knowledge?
Not that I can tell.
Okay.
Oh no, you're good. Like.
Oh,
This side either.
that's very nice of you, Cranky. Cranky's gonna gift a membership.
Take one. We'll probably take. I know it's not much, but we could take one.
We're gonna do this. Why don't we do this? Cranky, let's get to 55. If we get to 55 upvotes, Cranky's gonna gift a membership. 55 upvotes. And guys, when I hit 5,000 subscribers, I'm going to do a giveaway on the channel on one of my lives. So let's get to 50. Listen, Cranky's going to give everybody give someone a membership. All we got to do is get 4 more upvotes and you're going to get a membership to the channel. So we just need 4 more upvotes and we'll get there. 4 more upvotes, guys.
More picture of maybe the footprint next to a ruler.
I took it next to
Smash the mic.
Okay, perfect. So this is my card.
Okay.
All right.
If
I'm gonna pull out of this. Lee, I appreciate it. I think it's you know, it's, to me, I don't know. I think you know, my opinion, I don't think there's much there for me to make a determination in this case. I think that if it had any type of relevance or anything, we probably would have heard about it already. But you know, I appreciate you sending that over. Let's go back to Kerri Rawson. I never gave a prize at 5,000. I'm going to give away something at 5,000. I'll think of something good. Maybe I'll give away like a Fire HD tablet or something like that. You guys can watch me on the new tablet. Probably do that. Okay.
Talking to one another.
Let's keep playing through this.
When it first came out,
we need one more upvote,
they
and then Cranky's
they were
gonna
saying it. He hadn't
give
confessed
away
yet, and then those days
free
that
membership.
came following that, the amount of
The lucky
shock
person is going to get
that
free membership.
everyone in the family had up and down. You know, not precluding. I know you talking there
Just
about
one more upvote.
some interesting things. So even your husband's.
If you're not even a channel member, Cranky said at 55 upvotes, he's going to gift a membership. There's 66 people in here, so I know that 15 of you haven't hit it, and someone hit the downvote button.
You know, feelings. I think it was on the first camping trip that you guys went on, and you talk about
55. We got there.
I think that was the last one he went on actually with you, just because of.
All right, 55. Cranky, crank it away, brother.
Great cash, homie.
All right, we'll wait. It's gonna gift a membership here in a second. All right, Cranky gift a membership.
Got you.
Welcome, new channel member Danielle. You are now a member of the group. Thank you so much. Have a great back is always a great thing, and really do appreciate that. Part of the fam, part of the army.
Can't remember what the word you used, but you said your dad's
Cranky, that was
proclivities
great.
or something. He was
Thank you
just
so
did
much.
some things a unique way.
Very kind of you.
But not to elevate it to the point. I think we have a tendency to look back hindsight at some of the things, and everybody's now looking back saying, oh, that or this. But, you know, I guess my question is, some of the things, were they really that obvious, some activities, or are we seeing them through that light because
You guys
now
are so
we
great,
know?
very supportive,
And
very
I'm
supportive
not sure. It seemed to
crew
me
that
like
watches this channel. I appreciate
at least
that.
in your father's account, all those years,
You guys are
there
great.
wasn't a ton of people. You know, looking back backwards, we can say, "Oh yeah, he was doing this and doing that," but was everybody seeing it? And I think
I got to get a laugh button.
the
I don't
one
have a
thing to
laugh
keep
button.
in mind is we're talking about two different killers here, but the difference in age over the time, and we're being able to compare a much longer period of your dad's life to, you know, we don't know if this is the first one that Bryan did, but we're able to look at it in that. So that's just kind of my thought on it.
Yeah, interesting. Very, very great input. So I have another thought here on the attraction to these guys, right? And I know, Gary, you said there's actually a word for it, and somebody give us a little insight into and what in the world goes on with, and I know, Kerri, your dad gets love letters. There's other stuff that we can't talk about that's out there that we're aware of, but what goes on with this personality that says, you know what, I find it really, Brian's really my kind of guy. Boom. Here's a letter. You know what I mean?
And we've heard that. I mean, he's getting love letters in prison as we speak right now.
Well, the phenomenon you're talking about is called Hybristophilia, and it refers to sexual arousal by someone who is engaged in crime. What you see most commonly with these kind of offenders, of course, is that the attraction is to someone who's committed sexual assault. And
yeah, BTK's daughter is with this kind of greenish shirt on down here with the glasses. I don't know if you can see my pointer. Yeah, you can see it right here. My mouse. She's right there in the panel. I wish he would have had their names up. I think the names will drop again once the chat goes away.
Rape and also murder. And the idea is, it's a little complicated. There isn't a large sample of these people that we can get together and study.
Here we are.
But it is believed that they divvy up into two general buckets. One bucket would be people who are highly masochistic, who are attracted to people like this because of the fantasy of being injured by them. And being completely submissive to them. And we have seen crimes where,
I think we have a really
example,
great panel.
a willing victim will go on,
does a
let's
great
say,
job in here.
Craigslist or something to find someone to kill them, torture them to death. There have been cases where someone will find someone to eat them, like in the case of the victim of Armin Meiwes, the cannibal in Germany, who found a man who wanted to be killed and eaten. And then the other bucket are individuals that are highly narcissistic, that are attracted to the association with the offender, are attracted to the power that they believe that the offender has. It's interesting when we think about the idea that, there is a relationship between psychopathy and testosterone. Incidentally, testosterone is believed to be implicated in a portion of people who are left-handed.
Yes.
And about 30% of left-handers have unusual aberrant wiring of the brain. That's thought to be because of excessive testosterone in the womb. And we know the relationship between left-handedness and criminality is high for that reason.
If you
go into a prison, about 30%, some people estimate, of the prisoners are going to be lefty. But that is not to suggest that all lefties have that kind of style. That's just a small.
Are you doing open subject night? I can do that. I was gonna do down the road. I was thinking about turning maybe one of my nights that I stream to like a members only type of stream. So anybody that's subscribed to a member can access it. And maybe we can do just like a free flow chat in there, or you guys pick the subject and we can bring things up and talk about it. Maybe like a roundtable type of discussion. Or what I was even thinking too is doing something interactive where I can do a members only. You guys can join me actually on the live stream, and you don't have to turn your cameras on. If you want to, you can do that. And we can have like a panel of like people and just conversate. So that's something that I've thought about because I don't see anybody doing that right now. And I thought it would be really fun just to get a little bit more personal with, the people that contribute money to this channel on a monthly basis. So if that sounds like something you guys would want to do, maybe we can do that, down the road. But these are just some of the ideas that I've been doing. Maybe once a month we do like a members only chat where anybody that signed up as a member will only have access to that stream. So it's, just an idea that I've been throwing around.
Portion and not uncommon because of the
we love you here, Kerri. You're good.
I'm doing this too. but I've been studying this stuff for too long, Chris, so I could go on about it. But
I don't want to say too many of my ideas because I don't want anybody stealing my ideas. But I trademarked that one, so if I end up doing that and someone else starts doing it, you can let me know. But I thought about doing kind of just a members only stream and, allowing some people to come on the panel and just chat with me personally. If that's something that you guys want to do, I'd be totally open to that. So
there is a relationship there. Now, the thing you want to think about is that testosterone is associated with things that we consider to be powerful. so that it's easy, for example, to become attracted to somebody high in testosterone and leadership qualities, but who is a psychopath. So that some of those people wind up in power or the leaders of a cult, or they become, the guy in the neighborhood that's bad, but you're drawn to him because it's sexy, that kind of thing. But it's the idea that we are kind of wired to view some of those traits as leaderly, because I think in prehistoric times, the guy that was
Amber's in
willing
the
to go out
house.
and butcher an animal with his bare hands, or was the guy who could kill a mastodon or something, was considered attractive. But it doesn't work when you're a predator in a highly civilized modern society. So I think it's interesting to think about that when you ask the question of why are we drawn to these kind of people. There's a very fine line between leadership ability and that kind of psychopathic figure. I would say, Kerri, what happened to your father, I think, was a desire to be a leaderly figure, but failing at it, and then sort of drawing his power from his uniform and mechanical things like that. And you see that, I think, also to a certain extent with Bryan, that compensation for not being a leader, even though that's the fantasy, right? But anyway, that's the gist of hybristophilia, and I've heard some stories that would really make your skin crawl. For example, if you want, look at the case of the Night Stalker,
Richard
who was
Ramirez.
married during the course of his time in prison, or you can look up what happened with Charles Manson, where a woman fell in love with him, and then it emerged that she just wanted a right to his property, so that when he died, she could put his body on display in a sideshow. Or etc. So there are many cases of that. But Kerri, your father gets love letters from women who want to take his hand, or what?
I'm sorry, you cracked me up with the 30% being in jail left-handed after I just said I was left-handed, and then this is like serious stuff, and I'm over here trying to get control of myself because people are commenting that they're left-handed and they've never committed a crime. And I'm sorry,
that's why I emphasize that. That's why I emphasize that the vast majority of left-handed people have no such proclivity, but there is an interesting relationship between people who are psychopaths and left-handedness. In fact, one of the markers for that,
guys, we're
if you look at the fingers,
almost at 2,800 subscribers. I just need one.
The ring finger and the pointer finger are the same size in people who have excessive testosterone, and that's very common in individuals who are prone to violence. So that's a
what is this? What? What is this?
A marker of it. It's a marker in the literature that excessive testosterone is that the ring finger and the pointer finger are the same length. In the normal individual, the pointer finger is shorter than the ring finger.
Oh, excuse me.
Okay, so I don't have it.
Of course not. Right. Right.
Everyone's looking at their hands now. We're going to
Right.
look how many
But the
left-handed
point is that not everyone who has these things has proclivity. In fact, the vast majority of
how many people right now, as Nick says, are looking at their fingers at home?
Yeah,
going,
right.
"Wait a minute,
Everybody.
what
Everybody.
Yeah, there's a whole literature on it if you look it up.
Can I?
The bigger question is how many people are going to be looking at everybody's hands from now on? That's
Exactly. Right.
Can I make a point
because
that
of it? Go ahead. No, I was going to say, because of its relationship with testosterone, the finger length is also related to things like what subject you do best on the SAT, things like that. The visual people are more likely to have the fingers the same length, and the ones who do better verbally, the pointer finger is shorter.
Amber.
So it's an interesting little quirk that you can read about.
We're so close. I'm at
going back to
27.99.
the 30%?
So
thing,
close.
You know, as a left-hander, I'm wondering, because the schools are pretty much wired, or they were when I was growing up, to cater to right-handed. Like, did they teach you how to write? You know, like the notebook, like I'm the one that has an ink stain on my hand perpetually because everything's made for right-handers. So if you're talking about, I mean, maybe someone should go back and check all the big guys like Bundy and Gacy and all of them in the 70s. How many of them are left? How many were supposed to be left-handed, but were forced to be right-handed? Because when you're forcing somebody to do that, like my father, there's no excuse for what my father did, but there's got to be reasons. You know, so with me, like I had some learning disabilities early, like dyslexia and spelling, things like that. it's not so much your brain is wired like abnormally. It's just that we're 10% of the population. So 90% of the population is taught a certain way, and we're being taught to be like you guys, and we're not. Our brains are different. It's not abnormal.
Well, it's complicated because
Very nice.
about 10% of the population is lefty,
Frankie, you
but
are
about 70% of those.
being extremely generous this evening. Wow, that's very, very generous of you. We have a new channel member. I don't know why it's not allowing me to pull it up. That's interesting. My notification didn't show up, but we saw it in the chat. So Cranky gifted another channel membership out to Wallcat, is now a channel member. Wow, that's very, 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 very kind of you.
Are simply wired the same way as right-handers, but choose to use the left
Very
hand
kind.
for some reason. But that there is a tiny portion of people who are left-handed who do have aberrant brain configuration, and that's known to be associated not only with psychopathy, but you see that also in schizophrenia, and you see it in autism. So that there's some relationship that it has to do with the fact that the right hemisphere is smaller than the left. And the left hemisphere develops
All right,
first.
guys.
So most of us
Time
are
to
right hand
celebrate.
dominant. But when something is wrong with the left hemisphere in utero,
Get to
some people think because of
2800.
testosterone,
Get to
you use the other
2800.
hand. And then there are problems with brain areas that we're
Let's update the
increasingly
board.
learning are related to violence and the ability to be empathic, etc., because of the amygdala. The amygdala on the left side of the brain is necessary
all of your
for
hard work,
reading other
guys.
people's feelings.
I can't do
When the
this without
amygdala is
you.
too large, people can be excessively anxious and have too much empathy. When it's too small, they can lack it, like you see in autism or schizophrenia or psychopathy. And that's the left amygdala, right, which is going to be affected in some people. So this fascinating research is telling us that people that have one quality can sometimes look like the others. And it shouldn't be surprising that the core of psychopathy is a kind of deadness of empathy and a difficulty reading other people and a lack of fear, because it takes an amygdala to do that. Right. So that it's not surprising that these would be fearless, sensation-seeking, bored, guiltless people. But so anyway, it's an interesting thing to think about because it doesn't take away from the culpability of a person, but it's interesting to think about aberrant brain connectivity in people that are psychopaths.
There's a lot of
Appreciate
study
you.
on
I'm
this.
gonna go to the widescreen
obviously
for a
taking
while
place,
here.
and I know even Brian's professor was deep into
I hope
front
we can,
lobar
Kristen. That'd be
problems,
great.
right? I mean, front brain studies and a lot of
5,000
information is
by
going to come out. I'm sure at some point. But I have a question.
June would be
you know,
great. And then 10,000
as
by the end of
this
the year.
phenomena continues, i.e., he starts to
The only way
gain more
that's going to
attention.
happen is when I do live streams and videos. If you guys can make it here for me and just interact on those videos, push those out, because the first order of business for YouTube is your subscribers and coming and hitting those videos and watching them. And I get it, you guys have things to do and stuff like that, but at some point, you know, if I drop some video, come over and check out and watch through those, because that really helps.
Like BTK, you know, Kerri, what was it like at home?
Cindy was
when
watching.
your
She didn't know it
dad
was live.
started to, see the news and
Oh man,
how was
here.
what was
Hello.
his behavior
see
there
you.
At home, and what do you think is going to happen, you guys, to Dennis or to Brian and the circle of influence around him, i.e., these types of super fans, starting to chime in? So, Kerri, tell us, give me a little insight into how your dad was responding, if you recall, post some of the Fox murders and when he all of that during that time frame when he was out and about.
Sorry, I got us off track with the left-handedness. We before we were talking about fans in prison with these guys, and you guys, Gary explained a lot of it, but I think what I've seen is some women sort of feel safe with my father, like they'll write me and tell me he's a good guy, you know, like he treats them well in letters and on phone calls. He's like respectful. I think some of it too is people wanting to get up close to the monster, but not actually be harmed by them. So just like, you know, people engage in horror films and watch true crime and study this stuff and get really engaged in it. I think people, you know, some people are contacting somebody like my father or Kohberger because they want to get up close to it, but they don't want to actually be harmed by it. One of my big issues with it is that if my father got out of prison, he would murder these women. Like, he's fantasizing about them in really awful ways, I'm sure. You know, Kohberger could be too. We don't know yet, you know, what drives Kohberger. But you know, these women are giving my father their address and talking to him on the phone. And, you know, it's concerning to me that that goes on and has from the get-go. I mean, I'm seeing on social media now, like pictures of drawings of Kohberger, like where they're putting hearts on it and saying they love him. That's going around like social media. That's been, you know, with my father very early on, you know, he was getting fan mail. He still does. And what's happened with my father is that he still cyber stalks and controls people from inside prison. So even though he's in solitary, he uses these people, which I would call minions, and he builds relationships with them over letters and on the phone, and then he uses them to go stalk people like myself. So he uses, it's like there's this question of like somebody like my father has ethical and legal rights as a human, you know, where.
Who do you have an opinion on, Mandy Joe? Kerri? So the reason the connection is this, and I'll wait for Mandy to chat that in there too. The reason the connection is this: BK studied at DeSales University under Catherine Ramslin, and Catherine Ramslin studied BTK killer, actually had an academic relationship with him and also a friendship. And a lot of the time these professors will gain trust through friendship to get information from them. So she actually ended up writing a book and studying him. And Kohberger in his criminology class had this specific professor. So he was very well connected to BTK, knew who he was. And Kerri actually thinks that Kohberger may have had some contact with her father. So that's why it's brought up so much. Mikey S says, congrats to all on the original OGs and Bryan for working hard. Just paying off. Nice job, bro. New member, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Let's see. Did you ask? So I'm curious about this. You said I have an opinion on her, and I don't know if it's a popular opinion. What were you talking about? You guys chat so quick. It's funny. It's so quick. I think BK's daughter is profiting off her father for being a serial killer. I don't know. I don't know if it's profiting. I think it's just more sense of telling a story and getting that story out there and informing people and advocating for people and giving them warning signs and letting them know that, you know, if you sense any specific things like this, I'm going to be honest with you. And because you missed the beginning of the show, I actually, I reached out to Kerri. I didn't think that there was going to be any response because she's such high profile, but I'll pull the email back up for everybody since everybody's kind of new. You know, they might have just been jumping in the chat, but I wrote her actually today, and I was trying to get her actually on the show. And like I said, I didn't know if she was going to respond or not, but I actually wrote here, and let me see if I can, I'm going to just shoot this wide open so you guys can see it. I'll read it really quick. I don't know. Let me see if you guys can see that. Probably not. Let me go smaller down here. So basically, I wrote her just kind of asking her, you know, if she would be interested in coming on the show. I told her a little bit about my show. I would love to discuss the link between, you know, the coincidence between her and her father. Kohberger and her father. She wrote me back. She was very kind. She said, "Thanks. I appreciate the offer, but I'm currently stepping back from media to finish up my second book. So I have to decline at this time. All the best." So, you know, I got a decline, but it didn't necessarily say that she wouldn't be interested in coming back here. So maybe I'll hit her back up in, you know, a couple of months. I'm sure she's feverishly working on her book. If you are watching the stream, Kerri, because you do have the link to the channel, I do appreciate you getting back to me, and you're always welcome here. So if you did want to come on the show and talk about your father or Kohberger in the relationship together, I would love to have you here as a guest. So no, I think it's just more in the sense of, you know, informing, like, look, you know, you have to think this affected her life. This is her father that's been a notorious known serial killer that did this over like a 20-something year span. So it's very impactful. And I'm sure that she's doing a lot of this and talking about it for therapy reasons too. Because what do you do? You know, like, what do you do? My father killed all these people violently. So, you know, listen, she has a story to tell. I think that you got to give her a little bit of a break here in that sense. And, you know, it's tragic. You know, her name is always going to be connected to this person in her life. And the thing that's a very crazy struggle about it too, it's her dad. So this is a man that you have grown up with, you have loved all of your life. And then all of a sudden, with literally the flick of a switch overnight, it changes to this crazy relationship with your father now. You know, he was a notorious serial killer. How do you deal with that? You know? So, that's kind of my rant. I hope you guys get it. But and he says, maybe it's just creeps me out how she calls him her father. I would claim that. I would claim that fool. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy and it's weird, and it's probably something that's very hard to, you know, deal with on a personal level. I mean, I get you. I understand what you're saying. All right, let's keep playing, guys.
Where do those lines draw? Because my father's misusing the mail system and using people.
I love
my father's
that.
never
Guys,
stopped.
you guys are the greatest.
I mean, he doesn't have the ability to kill
Best
anybody,
fans
but he's
ever.
still trying to control
I see your side as well, too.
other
I
people
appreciate
and
it.
control his family.
That's what we do here. We get opinionated.
Wow. And Greg, give us some insight into that.
I love it.
Yeah, I was going to say that I got my first awareness of how many love letters come into persons that have committed homicides, and that was with the Menendez brothers. And
they get a lot of stuff,
because I had to interview both of them for trial, and they were getting at least 20, 30, 40 letters a week. It was amazing how many people were writing to them. Now, these were young, you know, at the time they were in their 20s. They were young, good-looking young men. But that also happens with some of these killers will say they want a pen pal. And so they will put their name out there. So you don't know how it really gets started, whether the female initiates it or not. But I have a whole PowerPoint on 20, I think it is, killers that had married in prison, had started a relationship by mail and actually got married. One of the
Brooke,
cases that I did, Henry Wallace, married the nurse that had been in the jail when
Sharon,
he was first
I love that
arrested.
screen name. It's good to see you here too.
And they got married he got married right next to the chapel was right next to the execution room. So
wow.
That was rather interesting. So
he's obviously
I was just going to say that happens. Everything that Gary says, I don't know how many get into how expanded the relationships get, but I certainly knew. In fact, the Menendez brothers, Lyle was married twice. He got married, divorced, and married again while he was in prison. And Eric has been married for a fairly long length of time. So it happens.
Interesting. Greg, what you dovetail into that thought?
Well, what amazes me is not only do they allow these people to get married, but also to have conjugal visits.
Got you, homie.
Where during their defense, when they were first prosecuted, during their defense.
So the Heart Says Lonely Hunter says, "Hey Brian, just want to say thanks for another great live. I have to jump off here, but I'll rewatch the rest later. You're doing great. Enjoy your channel." Well, thank you for joining us. I hope you have a great night. Thanks for joining us for a little while here, and being very kind and saying that you had to leave. You didn't have to do that, but that was great. Thank you. Have a great night. Thank you. And please do watch the replay. That's what they're there for.
They may have suggested they could not control themselves, but now
you guys are the best.
Now in an incarcerated situation, all of a sudden they can control themselves in a conjugal visit, and they can act and behave normally, if you will. And it just further attests to, I think, the selection, the choice aspect of when and where and with whom they decide to commit their crimes with. But it amazes me that it attracts a certain element in a group of
yeah, I did hit that the wrong
category classification.
I said, "I got you, homie."
Women most of the time that
come on, man,
is attracted to these individuals, and from the offender's perspective, it allows them to continue their fantasy and exact that fantasy in their own area of control. It just amazes me, just as a normal human being, and I'm far from normal anymore, having been in this business far too long. But some things just can never make sense to me.
Right. Well, I think we should add to this that it also says something about the compartmentalization process in the killers, because some of them have an incredible misogyny that couldn't care less about the life of a woman out in the world, but will develop a strange, a perfectly healthy relationship with a woman who is writing to them in prison or coming to visit them, where they would never harm a hair on that woman's head. And so that it says something about the splitting mechanism you might see, where women are seen as either kind of angelic or objectified completely. And that mechanism is so strange. I mean, that when you hear a specific offender talk about it, it really floors you. For example, the serial killer David Parker Ray, who had $100,000 torture chamber and trailer, with a gynecological chair in the center.
That was in Arizona, I believe. That was crazy, and he was filming it. And he was drugging all these women,
which was used to torture women and so forth. He tortured a woman horribly for a very long time, and came to like her because she had characteristics of the kind of women he idealized. And then when he was finished torturing her, he said, "If I had known you were that kind of woman, I wouldn't have tortured you." And so you have to kind of understand that compartmentalization. And Kerri, I think in your own life, where you would have seen it, is the way that your father would have been with your mother versus or yourself, actually, versus the way you would have been with the victim, and probably sometimes even hours apart or days apart. And
it was
it's an interesting thing to think about. Who was the prototype for the woman that they?
Here, hang on, I'll pull him up. Give me a second. I don't know if you guys can see this. Let me see. Oh, it's too small. Hang on. Let me go. I don't know how to. There we go. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. So BTK was actually a guy first. Can you increase the size? I don't know how to do it. I have to look that up so I can make this larger. But it was a male first, then a female, then another male, then a female. It's almost like he was alternating there. Then he went female, male, female, female, and then the rest of them all the way through were female up until 1991, and that was the last one. Interesting. Bottom right. My right. Nope. I'll have to figure it out. I got to get it so I can scroll and zoom in a little bit. But yeah, it was male, female, male, female. So you alternated. Then he went to female, male, and then the rest of them were all female. It's strange. The guy first. It's strange. All right, we'll keep playing through this video. I thought he killed a family, from what I remember.
Idealize and who's the prototype for the woman that they
Yeah, it was
hate.
Scroll.
And sometimes they're the same person.
Yes,
That's
yeah,
the most
that's
interesting
what I
thing
thought
of
too.
all.
We have
And so I think to understand hybristophilia, you have to see both sides of it. So we talked about the personality of the person attracted to them, but it's also interesting to think about the splitting and fragmentation in the offender that allows it, that allows them to have those attractions. So, Kerri, did you see that fragmentation in your father? A kind of a like misogyny on the one
I saw that
hand
really
and
quick
sort
when
of
you said that.
idealizing women on the other?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So with my father, I mean,
I think
Dr.
you're right.
Mercado and I were
think it was
talking
4.
about in Dr. Ramson's book. One of my dad's early fascinations was with Anne. What was Anne?
Good.
The Mickey Mouse girl. And
Annette Funicello.
Good point out. Good catch there. They were all. It was a family, and I thought that his first one was a family, because when he did his confession, he talked about that. I'll bring it back up really quick. So what Kristen's talking about is the 4 victims here. Yeah, I totally caught that just as I closed it. You were so right on that. Yeah. So his first 4 kills was a family. Yeah, just like allegedly like BK. You're so right on that. So I caught that the last.
Funicello. So my dad talks about his fascination with her being kind of like his ideal hot woman. We know my dad was pretty immature with women. Like he had a hard time in high school, similar to Kohberger. Like getting maybe overly attached emotionally, but not really being able to socially pull off dating. I know he was brokenhearted by some girl in high school. With my mom, my father had just got back from the military in 1970. I think he was still even in his Air Force uniform when he met my mom, so we met her at our family church. My mom already knew his family, his parents, his brothers. They knew my mom's family. They dated only for 9 months and got married. But I think in hindsight, I wonder, did he love bomb my mom, or did he truly like really love my mom? You know, I mean, he was like over the top, took her to movies, took her to dates, cleaned the kitchen for her. He was like a good husband if you remove the BTK. Like, I mean, he looked like an upstanding citizen, an upstanding husband, bend over backward for my mom. But then there's these times, like we've talked about before on here, where a little bit of the BTK came through. So in 95, we were on a vacation in Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Yes. Kristen, you're connecting the dots
And
tonight.
we were walking around looking at the Tetons. And my mom's a little bit klutzy like I am. And she fell a little bit down a path and like twisted her ankle and scraped up her knee. So she's bleeding and she's hurt and she's in pain.
Good call
And
out.
my dad just full flips out, like domestic abuser all of a sudden, angry at her for getting hurt, like angry at her
really good point out.
Interrupting
These are
his
both good point
vacation and his special day of seeing the
Ari
mountains.
is in the house.
So my brother and I are like trying to help her.
I got you, homie.
The thing is, again, of course, I'm over here talking in hindsight. What it's been, almost 30 years. But the ranger, the badge, he didn't like my dad. It was like he knew right away my dad wasn't a good person. And he got literally physically between my mom and me and my dad and made my dad go outside. Now, in hindsight, I go back and I think that badge knew something about my dad that the rest of us didn't. You know, like the ranger didn't know what he had on his hands. Like, I'm sure he thought he had some kind of domestic violence situation. Maybe that's what he did have on his hands. But he literally like sent my dad outside to calm down while we tended to my mom. So then my dad felt really bad for like flipping out on all of us. So then he went over the top and took us to a really nice lunch that we wouldn't normally do because of the expense, because it's something my mom would like. And then the rest of the vacation we were like in Yellowstone and river rafting with my dad, stuff my mom didn't really do. But my mom basically spent the rest of the vacation resting at the hotel reading. And at the time I was only like 18, 16 something. And I thought my mom was just being my mom and chilling and having a quiet vacation. And then about 7 years ago, when I started writing, I called her and talked to her about this whole thing. And she said, no, your dad ruined my vacation because of being, a brute.
I agree.
So when I've talked before about him, like these two times he tried to strangle my brother, and the time he chased me down the hall,
MRG,
I thought he was going to kill me. There were these moments, these flashes. And, now in hindsight, now I wonder, is it seeing a woman bleed? Because like anytime my mom or I got hurt, he would flip out and he would be mad, like that he had to stop whatever he was doing to take care of us.
Oh, excuse me, guys.
It's not a natural reaction to your child or your wife being injured. And I don't know what that is. Maybe you guys
are
do.
Great
but it was
tonight.
like he was flipping out seeing a woman that he
good points
was close to injured, and it was like he couldn't handle it.
Fascinating. So yeah, what are the correlating personality traits now, right? What are we seeing in this?
It's funny that Kristen says this. It's like Richard Kuklinski. He was the Iceman. He was a family man. He went out and did these mob hits and these murders, and then he would go home to his family and play with them during Christmas and have birthday parties, and he would leave during there was one account that I was watching, he was talking about on his interview. He said that he got called for a hit, went out, he was literally at the Christmas tree putting toys together for his kids. He got called for a hit, took care of someone, came back and started putting the toy together, and he was more angry that he couldn't get the toy together from his kid than how it was during the hit job. It's just sick person.
Potential individual who Gary nailed and nailed him. Coop, you guys nailed him before they caught him. And I mean, as a mass murderer on his way, right? I mean, I think we're still all of the same opinion. He was on his way.
Opinion? Did he say opinionated idiot?
Very, very problematic for society. But thank goodness they've got him right now. That said, he's allegedly, the problem here. But let's talk about the chameleon aspects of these personalities. And, I know that Greg, you teach constantly, and Dean, about the 3 lives that we live: public, private, and our secret life. Let's kind of focus. How do these guys manipulate their public persona so well that it masks that private persona? So, Anne, we'll start with you, ladies first, and if we'll just kind of maybe keep everybody, a couple of minutes, and that way everybody can chime in. Okay.
Well, I'm interested in, since we're looking at 2 separate, in a way, persons that have murdered, that they had multiple
Good night, Heather. Have a good
victims.
night. Thank you for
That
hanging
is
out.
really quite unique. We haven't talked too much about that. And where does that come from? The idea, people could think about, I could kill, I guess. I mean, I've certainly talked to enough.
It's a good point, Aria.
But to take on 2,
Yes,
3,
I've seen
4,
those.
and certainly in Brian's case, 4.
That's where I saw the interviews.
BTK's case, I think the initial one had multiple victims, is really rather, I think that's rather unique. I know that there are cases that I've seen and all of you have seen of two. But when it gets in, and it's unless it's a gang type thing or a mass shooting, but where does the idea to take on multiple victims come from? Why isn't one? That's what makes you always, I think, wonder if there had been others before. Was there some practicing? Usually in cases we get the practicing, and it can be on animals or it can be other kinds of things, and not necessarily killing, but to attack a victim of some kind. And then it moves up. Certainly with rape murder, they rape and then it escalates. So in both of these cases, it looks like the initial crime was multiple victims. So what kind of a personality? It's not necessarily a personality, but thinking patterns. I'm always hoping that we can move beyond behavior and get to the cognitive level, the cognitive thinking that goes on in the planning. And where I think we're going to have payoff on this, and one of the projects that we're doing
my eyes have been a little weird
with,
today.
the social media posts that
I've been
happen
like
and you can have access to.
Strained, I'll be good. I'm good.
Okay.
I can do another hour.
Who wants to go next?
I just said that because we got about another hour in the video, so we're about the halfway mark right now.
I wonder a little bit with both offenders
Nice.
in this case, how much they initially expected and anticipated or planned for.
So we'll do one more hour.
Than one
So
or two
11:30 Eastern Standard Time. One more
I
hour.
think in many cases they make that initial step to get involved, and then all of a sudden they're confronted now with more than one, more than two.
I'm actually off until Thursday, Dr. Bob. I'm on a staycation right now.
Now
I'm good. I'm good.
3 or
I'll get
4.
up and go to the gym
And I've
tomorrow.
been successful with the first
And I got to
one or
stream
two,
tomorrow night too.
or I've been successful in controlling all of them initially. I think
Tomorrow night show, I'll let everybody know we're going to get into touch DNA, and we're going to get into circumstantial evidence, and then we're going to compare the two. We're going to talk about Bryan Kohberger's life behind bars right now, what it's like for him, and we can go through all that. I have a nice presentation for tomorrow's show, so you guys aren't going to want to miss that.
I remember correctly, Mr. Rader didn't anticipate the whole family was going to be there. In fact, they weren't. You had a couple of the kids that weren't.
No visual snow.
And
we're going to do
with
Domino on
Bryan's
Tuesday.
situation, I'm not convinced yet that he intended on all 4 victims. I think that he was more fixated on 1 or 2 to begin with.
I don't have a migraine.
then
It's just my eyes.
While he was there,
sore.
he ran into that situation.
I didn't do anything today. I went out. My mom came by for a little while. We had lunch together. We hung out for a little bit. She left, and then literally I just didn't feel like doing much. I went to Target and bought a hamper today. Oh, I know what I wanted to do. So while I was over at Target, I wanted to show you guys something. My eyes are they feel strained. But I wanted to show you guys this. Let me email it to this. Let's do this. Because I stopped by Walmart to see if they had something there. I was going to save it for tomorrow, but now that it came to my mind, I don't like to keep things when they come to my mind because I'll forget. Hang on one second. Let me bring this up. I'm just waiting for this email to come through. Oh, excuse me. So I went to Walmart today and I moseyed into, it's just, I've been in front of the computer all day, so I think my eyes are just strained. I moseyed into the knife section. And what I wanted to point out was now that's not a K-bar. but they do sell K-bar like knives. And I do know this. If you go to the Walmart website, they do sell K-bar knives on the Walmart website. What I tried to do was put in Pullman, Washington as my zip code. This is a picture I took today, but I tried to put in the zip code for Pullman on the Walmart website to see if K-bars would come up. They do not come up, but Walmart does sell them and ship them. And I wanted to walk in and see if they had a K-bar at my local Walmart. They don't. They have something that's very similar to a K-bar. They have a lot of fixed blade knives. This would be very similar right here too, this buck style knife. But this, I almost freaked out when I walked in because I saw this one with the sheath right away, and I was like, holy shit, that's the knife. But it's not a K-bar, but it could be, you know, very similar. It doesn't have the US Marine Corps sheath, but you know, he might have bought that sheath before, you know, and kind of like, you know, Drunk Turkeys were saying he could be trying to play off this kind of military angle, like someone from the military did it. But I thought this was very interesting, and I wanted to show that to you guys. But yeah, they look too short too. So let's pull up this again, and we'll keep playing through.
And had to take care of it and adapt because he didn't expect or anticipate it, and which may have contributed to
it's pretty crazy,
the fact that he left evidence, because he wasn't anticipating those last one or two victims. And it disorganized his thought process.
Caught my attention really quick. I was like, wow.
The level of confidence that he
I was just curious.
to begin with.
And I literally would have died if I walked in. It was like the same exact K-bar that they think it is. I would have freaked out. But they do sell K-bar through Walmart. You can get them.
So I think that has
that's
something.
What I was wondering, if I walked into Pullman or I walked into Moscow Walmart, would they have K-bars in there? You know, and that's what I was trying to look on the website, but I couldn't find anything
to do with it. But you know, from a natural perspective, if I can do one, I can do two.
They sell ammo.
I feel fantastic. If I can be successful at more than that, think what it does to their level of confidence and self-esteem.
Dean, thoughts?
I think that to Greg's point, to me, what's fascinating is that if the goal was to do, we can't say on Brian's case because he was caught, but at least in
I thought I had a
Dennis's case, we don't see him repeating that ever again.
Pull it up on the screen.
So he did it once, the first time, at least that we know of. He did 4. But everyone after that was single. It was a single somebody alone, or there was the one. I take that back. There was the one where I think the brother was at the residence and he shot. But I mean, as far as him actively seeking out multiples to do, it doesn't appear, at least, that was what he was doing. And he spent an awful lot of time, from everything I've been able to read and research, preparing for these. He spent a lot of afternoons driving neighborhoods, checking out things, really making sure.
Have a good night.
We have that information.
Thanks for stopping by.
In Dennis's case, we don't in Brian's. We don't know what he would have done from here out. But I think Greg makes an excellent point on
that. Kerri?
Yes. So with my father, we believe it was just the Tid murders because he kept memorabilia underneath our floorboards in our hall. So the police told us that there would have been memorabilia from other victims, driver's license, jewelry. There would have been records. He kept records of everyone he stalked, like meticulous Nazi records in his BTK binders at work.
That's crazy.
So as far as we know, it's just the Tid. So he did start out in 74 with 4, but he didn't go, like you said, he didn't go into that house planning on 4. He didn't know the father was going to be home, Mr. Otero. He thought he was at work. He really was initially after Julie Otero, the mom, and potentially, if there's some debate about, my father mentions the 2 children. He actually wanted to ambush them in the garage and take them in his car to one of his silos. It was a fantasy of his to have this like murder silo. There's also talk about he was interested in the middle school, high school daughter that was not home. The 3 oldest children were already at school. So in my father's case, he's going in to get the oldest adult, maybe some of the children. He runs into another male and he has to improvise, is one of my father's words. So after the Oteros, then he said it was easier to get the same hit and fantasy and relief, as Dr. Mercado and Dr. Ann talk about, from just one. And it was easier always to murder a woman and never go after, never deal with a man again. He didn't want to have.
Don't worry, we're going to be on about another.
So in the second killing,
hour,
he was waiting in a house.
Go to 11:30 Eastern.
Yeah, and Catherine Bright, she was like 21. She came home with her younger brother who was 19. So he tied them both up, but Kevin Bright got away from the ties, and then they got into a battle with my father's gun, 2 guns, and Kevin was shot but survived. He's the only guy to survive BTK. And then after that,
brother of his sister died, right?
Yeah, Catherine Bright died. But the whole thing got away from my father, is how he puts it, because he almost Kevin almost got the gun and almost killed my dad. We will stream another hour.
I'm gonna hang out.
So my dad shot Kevin twice. Well, Catherine was trying to get out of her binds, and then my dad thought Kevin was dead, but Kevin ran out of the house.
3,000 people watching.
So my dad freaked out, thinking that this was just 2 months after Oteros.
That'd be
So
great.
in the Oteros, my dad claims he was completely in control of this crime scene for 4 or 5 hours in the Oteros house, basically left to do whatever he wanted to do in the Oteros. And now 2 months later, everything's completely out of control. And he didn't get to do his fantasy with Catherine. He stabbed her several times to end it. That's the only time my father ever did anything other than strangling. He said he didn't like it. My father was covered basically head to toe in blood, runs out of this house next to the WSU campus where my father's going to school, gets in his car, and he drove out into the country, stripped everything off, then buried it in the chicken coop at my grandparents' house, at his parents' house, because it was like a place comfortable with him. And so he buried everything in the sawdust, like the guns and the knife and the clothes. And then he went back later and got everything and destroyed it in varying places. And so he said his suede shoes were soaked in blood. So you're talking about his car would have been soaked, his clothes. The weapons were hid at his parents' house. There was a sketch from Kevin Bright of my father, and supposedly my father had the watch on that he stole from Mr. Otero 2 months before. But how much of that was known at the time in '74 by the police? How much of that was public? The sketches don't, in hindsight, the sketches kind of look like my father, but I just put the watch thing together in hindsight many years later. You know, my father's filling in these gaps. As we're talking about tonight, it's hard to compare Kohberger to my dad in some ways because we've got 50 years of information or more on my father. You know, we're just trying to fill in these little pieces with Kohberger, and in time it will come, but we're very limited right now.
Interesting, Kerri. And then I didn't mean to interrupt. I apologize. But I want to give Dr. Mercado a chance to weigh in here. And then let's, to your point a second ago.
If you guys don't know, and I don't know if anybody knows, if you're just new coming into the stream, I actually reached out to Kerri this afternoon. I did not think that I was going to get, I didn't think I was going to get any type of response from her. She actually wrote me back. She was very kind. I asked her if she wanted to come on the show for about an hour and just talk about her dad and Kohberger. And she's in the middle of finishing up her book, so she's unable to join, but she said that she can't join at this time. You know, it might just be a nice way of saying I'm not interested, but, you know, maybe I'll re-engage her once her book is finished and have her on here and try to get her on the show. I am going to keep reaching out to other guests as well. I'm thinking about reaching out to Chris McDonough and trying to see if I can get him on the channel. He's actually the host that's on this channel here. So I'm going to end up, you know, writing him. And what's the worst that people can say? No, you know, and then you just keep trying and trying and trying. And then one day you'll get someone. You know, that's the way all this stuff happens. So I'm definitely going to be reaching out to Chris here pretty soon and see if I can get him over as a guest on the channel. But we'll keep playing through. If you guys haven't subscribed to the interview room, I tell you to go over and check out Chris McDonough's channel. He's a retired homicide detective and has a great panel of people on there every once in a while. Actually, every week he does a live stream.
Let's talk about some of the interesting things you're discovering about the timeline on Bryan. So, Dr. Gary?
Someday all
well,
will turn one
because there's a couple of different topics have arisen here now. So first of all, when I was looking at mass murder for the database at Columbia Medical Center, one of the things that I was very interested in is the question of how many people did these offenders want to kill or expect to kill versus how many they actually killed, because as Ann and Greg and a few people are alluding to, they may not have expected to commit a mass murder. It might have been that they were targeting one person or two people, and there were people who unfortunately were collateral damage. And I think the weapon gives a little bit of a clue, because if you go into a setting with, a semi-automatic weapon with loads of bullets or something, it's easier to see that you intended to rack up a high victim count. But when you're dealing with something like a blade, it's hard to tell. And I have to say, having pored over this case for a long time, in the Kohberger case, I am suspicious that the intention was really to target one or two victims, and that Zaina and her boyfriend were probably people he did not expect to be awake, kind of.
I'm starting to believe now that I go over the evidence and look through it, and now that they're scrubbing a lot of Kaylee's social media, I think the intention was Kaylee. So I'm going to go ahead and put that out there. I'm sticking with Kaylee was the intended target. I think that Kohberger had been stalking her for a while, and I think was surprised to find that Maddie and Kaylee were in bed together. That's why Maddie became essentially collateral damage. And then I think that Kohberger, allegedly Kohberger, heard something of Ethan and Xana downstairs, and they became collateral damage as well. So that's kind of my theory now scrubbing through all of this evidence and going through it. If that is the way, or if that is, if it's not Kohberger and he's, not the alleged person that did this, I think if there is a targeted killer, then that is the way that scenario would play out.
They just were sort of there, and then he felt he had to do something about it. And to the point that Kerri made about her father being covered in blood.
There is supposed to be more documents that are released this week. I have heard that, and the court is really fighting this gag order, but we as citizens have the right to know. So I don't know if this is going to get all overturned and all the information will get out at some point, but I did hear that as well, that there are supposed to be new documents that do get released, and the court is fighting this gag order. And a lot of it is to keep an impartial jury in this case, because they don't want, the jury to be tainted. But I think that you can still get a fair enough trial with a jury. I mean, I in a lot of cases, these high profile cases, they still get a correct jury. I mean, shit, the survey might be this thick, but I think it is possible.
After the one murder is I've been very perplexed by the question of why it is that the witness who saw Bryan,
I know she
see him covered in blood,
but he followed her. He allegedly followed 3 of the girls. We know that on their Instagram and was following them for months. And she was posting very regularly on her Instagram. Let's see. Let me keep playing this.
Crime scene was found to be one of the bloodiest that the people who encountered it had ever seen. And why was he not covered head to toe in blood? The affidavit does not say that he was found to be, which makes me wonder, did he have a change of clothes? Did he wash in the bathroom? You know, and I really want to understand that. How on earth did he avoid being covered in blood? Now, just to answer the question that initially started all this about the chameleon aspect, I think it's important to understand that and I've said this before, there's a difference between empathy and compassion. And I think with the more purely psychopathic people who don't have these odd schizoid elements that commit these offenses, there is an ability to read the feelings of other people enough to pretend to care about them, to lure them. For example, when we look at the work of somebody like Ken Lanning,
in the chat right now,
know here,
you just go down
who
and
has looked
smash
at
that like
child
button. We're trying to get
abduction
the
and
stream
abuse
to 100
cases.
likes.
One of the things that Ken will always point out
100 likes
is that there's a difference between the kind of offender who can gain the confidence of a child by saying a certain things to them and luring them in a car, and the kind of person who has no social skills whatsoever, who is odd, that will simply snatch the child and pull them into the vehicle because they can't talk them into it. We see the same thing with adult offenders. I think we have to understand that the chameleon thing is easier when you're psychopathic and you can fake feelings, but you don't really have compassion. The odder.
On the contrary, Amber, there are a lot of people out there that think Bryan Kohberger is innocent. Again, everybody that we talk about on this channel, if they are in the middle of a case, I've always said they're innocent until proven guilty. But there are a lot of people, and everybody has a right to due process in this country. They can go through a trial and defend themselves. But there are a lot of people that think that Bryan Kohberger is dead innocent, does have no involvement in this, and did not commit these crimes. A lot of people think that. Again, I stand by what I say on this channel. I think the evidence is extremely strong. We're going to get into a lot of that tomorrow in tomorrow's presentation, so you're not going to want to miss my show tomorrow. But it just keeps adding up and adding up. And what I see, and I'm seeing the connections now through all the new documents that get released, it's very it's starting to really add up. So
more peculiar.
Chris, crazy. I think he wore a suit. I think he wore a suit. One of those like forensic suits.
Ones can't even do that. And that's where we see a lot more of the just grabbing somebody, tugging them into a van and dragging them off somewhere. But the interesting thing about the chameleon type that I've always been fascinated by, and I was considering writing about this.
Let me do this. I want to drop this for Miracle. Let me do this real quick. When you get a chance, Miracle, I want you to go to this link and I want you to read the timeline. Okay. I'm going to drop this. This is a fantastic timeline to go through. Read that timeline. Maybe that I'm not trying to sway your decision, but maybe this can make you a little bit more conclusive on how you feel. Maybe you swing guilty, maybe you swing innocent, but this is a pretty intense timeline.
Is that some of them almost seem to punish individuals for being pro-social and kind. So the idea is to say, oh, won't you help me to put my sailboat on top of the car, like Ted Bundy said. And when a person trusts and is willing to do a kind thing, that person has to be punished. So it's almost as if the idea is to say, you're an idiot for trusting me. You're a fool. And a way of saying, you invited this. It's your own fault. You let me in like a vampire. And so that I think there's an interesting thing about victim blaming and something about finding people foolish who let their guard down and are kind.
What Superman
because
for a while,
the individual
right?
might have himself been a victim once upon a time of abuse for something where they felt like a fool for trusting someone. And now that's projected onto another person. And so that's an interesting thing about the chameleon type is they seem to prey on people that are not savvy enough to tell that they are predatory. They have a disdain for that kind of person in particular, which is interesting. But anyway, so that's just my take on that, on the chameleon question.
I gotta wear my blue ones. I wear my blue ones.
So let's talk about the correlation. I mean, we all know, and Dean, you can validate this. The contact point. Dean, explain what the value of a contact point is in terms of one of the filters so that we understand and the audience understands the value of that through the investigative process. And then, Kerri, let's get into the timeline discoveries that you've come up with.
Crazy. His DNA is on the knife sheath. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. You're not going to want to miss tomorrow's stream. I did a lot of research and I came up with a lot of answers that I was like, wow. We're going to talk a lot about how long touch DNA stays on an object. We're going to talk a lot about touch DNA itself. We're going to talk a lot about circumstantial evidence. So you're not going to want to miss the show tomorrow. I promise you. And I think you're going to be wowed when tomorrow it's going to be 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Moon Vibes. I stream, if you look on my crawl on the bottom, every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday nights at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Well, I think when we look at it, we're looking at actually 4 different things in tandem when we talk about that. And that is the victimology, the initial contact site, the crime scene itself, and then potentially disposal site. Now, those last 3 can collapse into one another and be all the same.
There's the link to tomorrow's
that initial
stream.
contact site oftentimes is very much tied to our understanding of it can come from our understanding of the victimology. Why did that person connect with this offender at that point? And what were all the dynamics that went into why there, why at this time? And what were the elements that were needed to get a victim to that particular point at that particular time? And what was the offender doing to also be able to come to that point at that time? So there's a lot of things that we're looking at that are working in tandem with one another, but it becomes very important to understand how
from
they were
Miracle
connected.
Ladyboy,
And in this case with Brian, for example, I think in
$2
looking at BTK, it appears,
super sticker,
at least from what we're hearing, that this initial contact site was coming from identified extended period of time, and in BTK's case, the same thing. That he went out, identified people, and then took the time to really kind of develop that and move to that. And I think we're seeing some indications of that as well with Brian. I know when we first looked at your video that you had taken, Chris, that just looking at the environment itself, we were all just thinking, wow, this is what a place to be able for somebody to sit in so many different locations around there and just watch from a distance, let alone as we moved in closer and saw some of the potential there, especially on the backside of the house, for somebody to really be able to spend some pretty extensive time. There was a lot of cover there. So just some thoughts there.
Okay. Greg, Ann, did you want to add anything before Kerri?
I just wanted to quick add on to what Dean just said. It's always amazed me that it was done in the dark. There's no, of course, we don't have all of the crime scene yet, but how did he see? Did he wear something on one of those things on your head that like a flashlight or something? Because somebody would have heard or seen it if the light went on. I just find that when you say the point of contact, it had to be a dark room. And if he had them under surveillance, he must have known that it was going to be dark and that he worked best in the dark for some reason, whatever that meant to him. Of course, people are the most vulnerable when they're sleeping.
That's a good point, Ann. I think that he spent a lot of time conducting surveillance there at that location. I think he spent a lot of time in that backyard in the middle of the night. I think there were times when he was inside the home while they were sleeping. I think he was as familiar with that house as they were, with the lights on or off. I think he was that well prepared to go in.
Interesting. So, Kerri, what do you got for us?
Well, a couple things. When we're talking about the surviving roommate on the 2nd floor, I'm going to not use her name out of respect and privacy for her. But There's a light in that living room in the Idaho house that said good vibes. It's very bright. It's neon. There's some thought by others that when Kohberger came back from what we believe was murdering Xana and Ethan, that light would have been behind him. So did she see him better than he saw her? Did that light blind him? And then if he had night vision on, like Anne was talking about, there's been a lot of speculation. Now we don't know. But if he went in with night vision goggles, could have those lights have blinded him? You know, so we don't know what the surviving victim saw. We know we speculate she obviously had to have been in shock, fearful for her life. You know, was she catatonic after this happened? Or did she just write it off as like maybe a boyfriend leaving or some stranger? There was a lot of partying in the house, a lot of people coming and going. I mean, we just don't know right now. So we don't.
So wait a minute. I just want to add some commentary here to Kerri's theory. She said night vision goggles. Now, we haven't heard or seen anything in the evidence collecting, but this is just another interesting point. And you're going to think this stream is probably about a month ago they did this. Let's just say, all right, you think K-bar knife, okay? Let's say it wasn't bought at Walmart. I always thought that a K-bar knife could be bought at a military supply store. And there's plenty of them around near my house. And I was actually going to go in there today and see if they had one. K-bar knife. What else would they carry in there? Night vision goggles as well. That's where you would get that. So you have the U.S. Marine Corps K-bar knife. And let's just say that they do come across at some point some like night vision goggles or something like that. Just throwing this out there. I'm not saying that this is going to happen. Just saying. But it make a little bit more sense where that K-bar came from.
We don't know what she saw. And then she's a very important part of this case. So we all have to be very protective of her because, you know, this poor girl might have to go on the stand, both the girls.
Throwing theories and opinions out.
You know, and then when Greg is talking about had he been in the home, well, did he know there were two other people in the home? You know, did he know there was a third floor? Like what, like my dad would have.
So there's some speculation about Amazon. There's been some information pulled off of eBay, and we know that he had a Walmart receipt. And I just was showing them earlier, if you were in here, I actually took a walk to not walk. I drove over to my local Walmart today. I took a picture of their knife section. Now they didn't have a K-bar knife, but they had K-bar style knives in there. And you can buy K-bar knives on the Walmart website. I'm not sure what they sell in Pullman or Moscow. Considering that that's probably an area where there's more hunters. So they may have those style of knives where you can just literally walk in and buy them. And that's what I was trying to figure out today, if I could do that. There is a Dick's Sporting Goods that's next to my Walmart. I was going to go in there, and I'm pretty sure that they do carry K-bars in there.
Never left anybody alive if they had seen him, you know. And then I was talking to Dr. Brucato, like I'm under the belief, as the rest of us, that he really was only maybe after Maddie and Kaylee on the top floor, you know, or even maybe just Maddie. I think that's who he was fixated on. And then he ran into Xana and Ethan awake, at least Xana, because she was walking around getting DoorDash, reported on TikTok from the affidavit, maybe had her headphones on when she was on TikTok at 4 a.m. I mean, she maybe didn't even hear what was going on upstairs. You know, he's gone in, he's upstairs, did that quickly, quietly, comes down and runs into basically, you know, chaos. And then was he injured? Is that why he left?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's all speculation, but.
And I think, you know, one of the things that people have speculated about who are examining this case is thinking about whether this is the type of offender who killed totally unrelated people to mask the motive. Because there are offenders who do that, who will say, if I only kill this one person, it'll be obvious that, you know, that there was a connection to this person, so you kill multiple people to mask it. I don't know how I feel about that hypothesis, but some people have put it out there. But I did wonder if the group had any thoughts about this question of why he wasn't completely covered in blood when the witness saw him. The description did not include that. Was it dark enough that it wasn't obvious? Did he bring a change of clothes? When did he have time to wash up? Where are, you know, it's just odd to me. But I don't think anyone would deny that there must have been an outrageous amount of blood on his body.
Yeah, I think that
84 people
as
watching.
you came down those
Almost
stairs or
84
by
likes. I just
the
need
witness
3
that saw
more people
him,
to get up there.
my
86
understanding was
people
that she
watching.
described him as being in a ski mask and in dark clothing.
Let's
And
smash that like button.
And I don't know that there was much lighting in that area. I don't think that she could see and tell. And I'm not sure that he saw her, because had he seen her, he may have taken her out as well, because he was on his way out, is my understanding.
Hey, Carrie, how are you? Welcome to the stream.
Certainly after killing 4
Get a
people,
chance,
he's got to be in
subscribe,
quite the
smash the like
mental
button,
state as
and
well,
hit that bell
right there.
notification.
Having been almost in a trance state to get out of there, not necessarily being prepared to take out 4, intending on maybe 1 or 2, ends up killing 4, and now knows he's got to get out of there as soon as possible. So I don't know that he actually sees her, that last witness that was over, because she said she watches him walk out and then she shuts her door and locks it. So that's one of my questions about it. Does he even see her? If he did, why didn't he proceed to attack her as well?
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, if he is covered, if he's wearing black, right? I mean, he's obviously.
If you guys, just for those, let's see, that want the most updated information on what documents they have, I'm going to drop this link in there. You can get all of the timeline, all of the information, all the documents that have been released. I do. I think he's relishing in this right now. If it is BK, I think he's loving all this attention right now. You guys can click on that link and that will give you all of the information. You can go through a virtual tour of 1122 King Road. If you click on that link and click timelines, that'll give you the full timeline, and they update it as it moves along when new information is put out. It's a really great source of information.
Obviously done all 4 of his victims. He murdered them, horribly. And of course, every one of those moves.
That's the link to tomorrow night's stream. If you guys click on that and you just hit the notify me button, that'll keep you notified when I go live. Tomorrow I'll be live at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's one of my regular nights. This is kind of an off night for me, but if you guys want to be in here on a Saturday night, I definitely can start streaming a lot more too.
Those stab wounds, and it's going to be an interesting report when we find out what exactly the counts are on each of the individual victims.
He went upstairs first.
That will obviously, as we've talked about in the past, it will give us some intensity level in relationship to the first strike, and then thereafter. But I don't know if there would be a complete covering of him. I mean, you're going to certainly have cast off going in every direction, but the majority, a lot of times people forget that as the blade is coming down, the cast off is coming up, and it's going in a direction upward. I mean, I've been in crime scenes where you look down at the floor and there's hardly.
This is a very good, interesting thing, and I want people to really listen to this because this is a retired homicide detective, so he's seen it all. I'm going to back this up a little bit because I think this is interesting and it's very important for everybody to listen to this.
In my experience, if he is covered, if he's wearing black, right? I mean, he's obviously done all 4 of his victims. He murdered them, horribly. And of course, every one of those moves, those stab wounds, and it's going to be an interesting report when we find out what exactly the counts are on each of the individual victims. That will obviously, as we've talked about in the past, it will give us some intensity level in relationship to the first strike, and then thereafter. But I don't know if there would be a complete covering of him. I mean, you're going to certainly have cast off going in every direction, but the majority, a lot of times people forget that as the blade is coming down, the cast off is coming up, and it's going in a direction upward. I mean, I've been in crime scenes where you look down at the floor and there's hardly anything, but on the ceiling there's just streaks and streaks of problem. Okay, and so, you know, I think where we can qualify a possibility here is the fact that the surviving victim did have a bloody, what appeared to be a footprint in front of her door, and it did have some enzyme, traits. So that's probably, he was walking in either his own bleeding or the victim's blood, which would, to your point, Gary, would cause one question. The question is, well, how come we're not seeing, this other side of it? But I think the other side of this also is, I think there's a high probability I'm leaning towards she didn't see him, or he didn't see her. He didn't see her. I think that's more logical, and that gave the distance potentially for her to kind of, in fear, just kind of close the door and lock it. But that's again, that's
flying in the chat tonight.
Just a theory, a hypothesis, but it certainly would help understand.
Well, another thought that has bothered me about this is whether the mask would have been worn during the killing also, or if it was simply to escape undetected. Because there are some offenders that part of what is attractive and gives them a sense of power is to look into the eyes of the person they're killing. They've chosen the knife because of the incredible intimacy. They know they're not going to leave the victim alive, and there's just something exciting about the person looking at them and being afraid of them and all of that. I just don't know if he would have had the
before we end the stream. We got about another half an hour on this, but before we end the stream, I want to play a video for you guys that I made at the very, very beginning of this, of this case. And I think that you're going to be very surprised with what I said. But we'll finish this.
Mask on during the attack. It makes me think of somebody like Ted Bundy, who would have worn the mask to inveigle himself into a place, but then would take it off during the killing. And I wonder what people's thoughts are on that, because if the psychology is anything like we're imagining, I mean, would he have wanted the victims to look at him and to feel powerful? Or any thoughts on that? It's been bothering me a little.
Kerri?
Real quick. So in the affidavit, the witness on the second floor survivor said that she noticed his bushy eyebrows, which we all now know Kohberger has. So that's a key statement that's going to be really important in this trial, that she got a good enough look at his face, report his bushy eyebrows. There's some thought that the mask maybe was more like this, and maybe covered his face, his mouth. So people said maybe he even had more like a pandemic type covering.
Let's get to 100
on,
likes.
almost to look more natural, or maybe it was around like this, but then you could still see his eyes and his eyebrows.
Hit that like button.
It's going to be very interesting to see what comes out in court. I want to put this one thought up here. This one from Vet Girl. What did BTK ever find joy in? What would have been his definition of happy? Any compassion or empathy towards anyone or anything? Kerri?
Well, I mean, I guess we've got
Have a good night. Thank you for stopping by.
But man, I would have swear to God the man loved my family. I would have done anything for us. Now, I always wonder, had we stumbled into his stuff, or, if I had been living at home in 2004 and when the police were playing cat and mouse with my father, would I have put my brain to it and figured it out and then got myself in trouble? Would I, be alive? But on this side, before he was arrested, God, that man loved us. I mean, he would do anything for us. I mean, he moved me up and back to college 1,000 times. He moved my stuff to Michigan when I got married. Immensely protective, immensely, just a massively huge.
We would have known someone by now.
Friend in my life, just love that man to pieces.
100%.
So it wasn't. I mean, I have detectives tell me, "Oh, it was all just a ruse and a lie, and your life was a lie," and I say, "No, it wasn't. He was my dad when he
in
was
my
with
opinion.
me. You know, and you only know him now. You only know him from his crime scenes and his games and his confessions. You only know him in hindsight.
Yeah, you've been through a lot, and that again, this goes into the study that Gary and Greg, many others, yourself, now, of understanding.
I agree.
The ability,
I agree
the depth
so much.
of the ability to wear this mask. I mean, and Bryan, BK is a perfect example of this. I mean, he's got a tremendous amount of pre-planning going on here to execute for human beings. And you wanted to say something. I see your mic coming on.
Well, I was just wondering what the Kerri or anyone thinks is going on with Bryan's family. Now that they have, certainly he's a suspect, obviously not proven in court yet, but you think that they have the same view of him, Kerri, as, you know, the loving son or the loving brother or whatever, and are shocked by what they are hearing?
Well, there's a big difference here, which is that my dad confessed the first night.
Right.
So
Frankie,
we
have a
were
good night.
contacted.
Thank
My
you.
family
Thank
was
you for
personally
gifting that
contacted by the
membership.
FBI the
Very kind
first
to you.
night, just as kind of a letting us know for sure that they had found my dad's memorabilia in underneath the floorboards. Basically, they told my dad they were going to tear up our house. And they used my mom and us as a wedge against my father to get him to confess. My father was playing games with them for about 5 hours. And they said, look, we know who you are. Tell us where it is, and we will not tear up that house and hurt Paula and the kids any worse. And so he said, okay, you got me. I'm BTK, and this is where the stuff is. And they didn't ever touch anything in our house except what they absolutely had to, which my dad told them. So in our case, my family knew night one he was guilty. Now I was in denial, and I was off in my holes trying to alibi him and wrestling with it and grief and everything you can imagine from a perspective of mine. And I'm sure Kohberger's family's going through that, you know. Plus, you also have a different dynamic of parents and child versus child and parents. So you have a lot of parental guilt. What did we miss? What did we not see? You know, same for me is why couldn't I stop my father? That's going on. But in this case, I would imagine unless the police have been more open with Kohberger's family, I would think they probably have a lot of questions and are going to want to know everything going forward, the evidence, and be at the trial and things. That would be my speculation.
I often wonder what he and his father talked about on that.
I think they have a lot more evidence. We're going to hear about that in
Washington,
pre-trial.
and especially when they were pulled over.
Yeah. Kerri, I've got a question for you. When were you allowed to begin dating?
Oh my God. Well, this is more my mom's doing. So my dad was sort of kind of like the wild man and let me be wild outside and get into.
About another 20 minutes on this video. And then I'm going to play a short video that I made back on December 25th. And I want to compare my predictions as to what we know about the evidence now. And it's pretty shocking what I thought back then. But let's finish this up. We'll do that. This is another marathon stream, guys. You guys are really hanging in. We're almost at 3 hours. Wow. Long shows.
All sorts of trouble and tomboy. And my mom was very strict. Like I couldn't get my ears pierced till I was 16. I was allowed to go on homecoming at like 15, 16, but I had to be chaperoned. Mm-hmm. So it was, but then my father was really, we were talking earlier about my husband, we're divorced now, but he went camping with me in 2000 and my dad was very persnickety and controlling. And that was the only time my then husband went camping with him. But my dad actually had opinions about the man I married and wasn't sure he was like the best guy for me. You know, like my dad was very much do what I say, don't do what I do in hindsight. So my father had a cuss jar. Like we had a cuss jar in our kitchen and we got in trouble for cussing. That's what I grew up under. And then I found out all this stuff.
You guys have to understand that a probable cause affidavit is just enough details to give probable cause to arrest someone. You got to think, when that probable cause affidavit came out, and there's been months in between that. So this case is still being investigated on. That's why you're seeing more documents come out. And they had started getting documents out in December. So they are already on to things. And, you're going to see a lot more information come out. The pretrial hearing is going to really outline the full case, because that's when they go to the judge and they're going to argue and say, this is all the evidence that we have against BK. That's why we think he's responsible for this particular crimes. And then the judge will hear from the defense, and then will make their decision to go to trial. To me, the evidence is very, very strong, and it gets stronger every single day with more evidence that comes out.
Stuff about my father, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Seriously? I'm getting in trouble for cussing Dad.
My email?
Did he have any rules for you in terms of when you started to date? Was he a real stickler on time, when you were supposed to get home, or what kinds of things to be concerned about or look for your own particular safety?
Yeah, well, I mean, we had the general curfew, but there was an interesting conversation I had talked to Dr. Mercado and I think Ann about. When I was around 16, I was walking in with my father, Sarah's robot for car maintenance. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, my father starts talking to me about being safe. He's like, well, you're getting older now and you're learning to drive. You're going to be out on your own, and you need to learn that sometimes people do bad things, usually men. And he said, you need to, when you approach your car at night and it's dark, you need to look for somebody in the back seat because they like to hide back there. I still sometimes do that. And then
Opinionated idiot.
Hello.
Hello.
And this is a boy named Phil.
Hey, how are you?
How are you, Bryan?
Good, good.
So all the good, thank you. All the people that are thinking that BK is innocent, which who knows, he may be. One thing that's hard to overcome for me is how nobody is standing out for his innocence.
Yeah. Usually, any type of person, and I think that's a great thing that you brought up. And I think this has been talked about too in some of the media, the mainstream media. And, again, I want to make sure that everybody understands here, my callers, the people that watch this channel, and I've said this 1,000 times, everybody's entitled to their innocent until proven guilty. They're given their due process in our court system. We can have our opinions. We can, hash those out in the chat. This is what this is supposed to be, an interactive community. So I wanted to state that first.
Oh, no.
Sure.
I'm absolutely not putting anyone down.
100%.
I love opinions. That we need people to question everything, because it could be one of us that are falsely accused one day.
Of course.
Of anything. So we need people. But the fact that nobody is coming out on his behalf, even his
parents,
the first attorney that he had said, well, he hasn't been proven guilty. He's innocent until proven guilty. Nobody is saying he's innocent. And
right.
Can you imagine if it was you
or
one of your loved ones? Like, I mean, I can't imagine. My son, he just started college, and he's a little younger than him. But if he was accused of this, I would be on
enraged.
Everywhere.
My son didn't do. I mean, look at Gonzalez's father when this first happened. I mean, he was on every news program, like freaking out. Fighting for his daughter, fighting for those victims in that house, and and that's funny that you said that, because I was actually going to talk about this tomorrow night. No one's coming out and saying anything, and you're not even hearing leaks in the media, and the people that they've tracked down that have known BK have even said, oh, he's weird. He was strange. He did weird things. He degraded women. No one's saying like he's a good guy.
Yeah. And even if he was a bad guy,
sure.
Like being a bad guy, like a POS, I don't want to cut. Well,
sure. It's okay.
A piece of shit, right? He could be a piece of shit, but to be a murderer and to do this horrible crime is way separate, right?
Right.
And not nobody. And he comes from a relatively, what I would think is a normal family.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just crazy. But I just wanted to say that. But I'm glad everybody's on there sharing opinions. That is awesome, because we need people's opinions, because this is what keeps our system honest.
Of course, and
my mind.
it gives good, healthy feedback. I think streams like this and channels like this can bring a community of people together from all walks of life. And the thing is, here's the thing that we have in common. You know, we all enjoy. I mean, sick as enough as it is. I think it's just those curiosities, and I think people are really captivated. And this has pulled a lot of people into this, like 4 innocent kids that had no clue this was coming.
Nothing.
And then, we didn't, honestly, I thought it was going to go cold, and they weren't going to have a person of interest. And it's just that curiosity.
And these law enforcement officers were on it.
100%.
I mean, the fact that they didn't leak anything was awesome. I mean, they kept everything to the belt, and they kept an eye on him.
Mm-hmm.
And they just did a fantastic job, in my opinion.
Yeah, they did a really good job of masking to the public of what was going on, because they knew who it was. They didn't want to scare the potential suspect BK out of the area. And now that we find out that and the chief's name is slipping, is it Fry? Chief Fry? His last name's slipping my mind right now. But to know that he had FBI training, that he spent weeks at an FBI seminar and met a lot of FBI agents. And that's why you think he had them so quick on this, and having that connection probably helped save so much time in this case to have the FBI come in and investigate this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good.
I think everyone did a great job.
Absolutely.
But okay. And by the way, there's an E at the end of my name. It's Christine.
I'm so sorry.
Okay. Hey, have a good night.
All right. Thanks for calling.
And by the way, you did mention that you're spreading your channel. It's not just going to be about the Idaho cases. That I think it's a great idea.
Sure.
I think most of your listeners will think that too. You're doing a great job, kid.
I appreciate it.
Keep it up, kiddo.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye. That was really nice. All right. We'll keep playing through this. Thank you, Christine, for calling. I have your name correct now, but great call. Appreciate your perspective, and anybody can call in any time. But let's play through this.
And he says you can take your key, and he showed me how to take the key and use it as a weapon, something I've still known to do. He talked about how somebody might hide under an elevated car and slice your ankle. Then he goes on and physically shows me like how to fight off an attacker. Now, he didn't wrap himself around me, but he physically showed me like how to knee somebody in the balls and how to fight them off. And he said you fight like a wildcat. He said, you just fight for your life. You scream and you fight for a wildcat. Okay, so I'm 16. Then in 2005, I find out he's BTK. Then in 2016, I found out in that very parking lot before the Oteros in 73, he tried to kidnap a young bank teller and tried to get her in his car. This was before the Oteros. So it's 2016, and I'm realizing it's the same as that parking lot where he's telling me how to fight off somebody. And he literally probably was remembering that, warning me about somebody like him and also getting off on it.
Mikey, have a good night. Hope to see you tomorrow night.
That is my life.
Was he affectionate toward you and your brother?
Not real verbal, like not very, like I love you was hard, but he would hug. Like there's a lot of photos of us like sitting next to each other, but not overly affectionate with us. He sort of wanted to keep his space, but he was very loving with my mom. Like they would dance in the living room and be dorks and kiss and hug and, stuff that grossed out us.
I just bought it, actually. It's a Fire HD.
Thank you.
Amazon.
I want to get to this question that keeps popping up. Don't worry, I'm going to help you. Gary, Ann?
Don't worry, I'm going to kill you.
This is obviously Bryan when he says it to one of the victims and anybody else that wants
Don't
to.
worry, I'm going to kill you.
This is way above my pay grade here. This is deep.
Well, I think he's just trying to relieve her. She's obviously concerned. There's been an attack. Maybe he's already attacked the boyfriend. And she is full of anxiety. She sees what's going on, or at least a perception of what's happening. Very concerned and emotional, and he's simply trying to diffuse that level of anxiety to control her and her reaction rather than to fight, resist, or to run out. I think he's able to control her for the moment until he can finish what his intention is.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. That is not an unusual statement to hear from someone that's going to kill someone or rape someone. I've certainly heard that from victims that survived. So I think it's to calm them down, and then he's got more control. I agree with Greg.
Right. I think it's an example of the kind of chameleon process we talked about, where he knows something that a person would say who is compassionate to calm someone down. And I also think if Kohberger is indeed the killer, that there's a perverse double meaning because he was somebody who indeed was studying to become somebody who helped people, who were victims of this kind of thing. So that
ideally, I'm an Apple guy. I wish I could have got an Apple tablet, but they're just, for what I need is just simple note taking. I need a good note taking app that doesn't have fucking pop-ups on it. If you know anything about that, O'Brien, I would love that too. Let's finish out this stream.
That when you think about somebody studying criminology saying, I'm here to help you, it has a perverse double entendre to it that I'm not suggesting is conscious, but it's a little twisted when you think about it that way, because that in essence is what is so perverse about this personality, is the idea you have somebody who's studying to become a helper, but who in fact is perpetrating, which gets right back to the perverted thing, the perversion of kindness you were talking about, Carrie. I'm here to show you how to not be victimized in a place where you take a victim. And I think that having studied this phenomenon of this, perverting an otherwise kind moment or something like that, I think it gets right back to that compartmentalization and splitting thing that we keep talking about. Because sometimes with people like this, there is a longing to bring together the two sides of the self, right? So you start to bring into the moments where you're trying to be kind or you're connecting to the person you idealize, you're showing them what you really are. Sort of like, Carrie, your father having materials right under the floorboards so that at any moment the family that didn't know he was BTK could find out because it was just under their feet. Or the example I always give is Gary Ridgway, the serial killer, bringing his wife out to the field to make love, where a few yards away was the festering corpse of a victim, because of the fantasy that perhaps she would discover what he was, and the bridge would be there would be a bridge in the split. And Carrie, you also talked about your father sometimes turning into BTK for just a split second at home when he would lose control, all of that. So I think it's interesting to think about what is it that sort of makes a person weave in and out of those sides of the self. My experience is it has to do with loss of control, which gets right to what Greg and Ann are saying about this guy showing a little glimpse of the other part of the fragmented self. It came when he was scared and out of control. And then all of a sudden, he turns into Mr. Nice Guy for 2 seconds, because that's the technique he uses out in the world when he's not Mr. Killer, but Mr. Powerful, right? So you resort to it. That's what he knows how to do. And it's very interesting to think about those triggers. That actually gets us right to the point that Chris had raised about the timeline you found, Carrie, because one of the things I'm hoping when you walk through it that we could all talk about is what the life trigger was that pushed him over the edge. If Kohberger is guilty, because Greg and Ann and Dean, I'm sure you'd agree, in many of these offenders, we identify these stressors that sort of come in their life right before they go out and start to kill. Carrie, I think in your father's case, it was like loss of a job. It's so maybe, Chris, if it's okay, maybe Carrie could give her excellent timeline that she's patched together.
Absolutely. Feel free.
Right before we get to the
and one other thing also, I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. We all know what the affidavit says. Okay? And we don't know if it's BTK or if it's Bryan saying it or if it's Ethan saying it. I mean, there's a lot of things out there, right? We don't know.
Guys, I'm gonna end this. It's only got about another 10 minutes, but I do want to end at about 11:30 because it's going to be a 3-hour stream, and I do have things to do tomorrow. If you guys want to catch the rest of the last 10 minutes of it, I'll drop the link here in the chat. You can go check it out after the stream. But I do want to end at 11:30 because I've been on here for 3 hours and it's another marathon stream. But what I wanted to do before I leave is play a video that I did back on, what's the date? And I just had the date too. Hang on a second. Let me pull this video up. Okay, let me check the date and then we're going to wrap up the stream. Okay, this is a video that I made on December 25th, 2022. Okay. So listen to my predictions and let's see how close I was so far. You know, of course, everything is just circumstantial or an opinion, but let's play this.
4 has been a tough year. Our
See how
sales
good I
are
did.
down, our growth is down.
Sonny, I rushed you. It's been over a month since 4 University of Idaho students were found stabbed to death on November 13th, 2022 at a home in Moscow, Idaho. But so far, police say... Thing you remember too is the case was very fresh and I did not pronounce a lot of their names correctly. So... suspect or suspects have not been identified in this horrible crime. The victims in this murder investigation, Madison Mogul, Kaylee Kunglavis, and Xana Kanoodle, were roommates who lived in the home, Come on. while the fourth victim, Ethan Chapin, did not live there but was dating Kanoodle. There were 2 other roommates that lived in the home, but they were not attacked, and the police say they believe they were asleep through the murders. A lot of people are asking why. Why haven't we heard anything? Why hasn't a suspect or suspects been named? Why hasn't anyone been arrested yet? Well, the case is complex, and it takes time to process evidence. The police don't want to make a mistake and blow the case. They need to be 100% sure. With all that surrounding this case and how high profile it's been, there have been a lot of theories as to what happened. Thanks, guys. Suspect or suspects that did this. All right, let's see. One of the theories is it's a new serial killer. Recently, 2 unsolved murders in Washington and Oregon recently stand out. I was wrong on that. Similar to this case. Those crimes happened on the same date as the Ohio murders. It was the 13th, and they fell on a weekend. The houses involved could be watched from the back with coverage from the woods. All houses have access via sliding glass door entry, and all crimes happened during or in around the 3 a.m. time frame. No DNA or DNA matches have been found in any of the cases so far. Another theory is it's a copycat serial killer. Someone like a Ted Bundy copycat. Maybe. They may have been obsessed with Ted Bundy or watched too many movies. The hit theory is something else that's been questionable. Maybe they or someone in their family was involved in a bad business deal or in crime activity. Another plausible theory is the jealous or angry ex-boyfriend theory. They just couldn't stand to be without one of the girls, and in a fit of rage, decided to kill. There's been the obsessed student theory, same as the theory above. They just couldn't stand to be without one of the girls. Could be it. Someone that tried to ask one of these girls out before and they were rejected. Could be it. Pissed them off, so they decided to get revenge by killing them. The more than one killer theory certainly could be plausible. Murdering 4 people on your own would be a very hard task, so it would be more logical that 2 suspects were involved. The 2 roommate theory, they were there. They had something to do with it, or they knew the suspect or suspects that were involved. Another theory that's been thrown around is the maintenance worker theory. They saw the girls before, became obsessed, knew the layout of the house and surrounding areas so they could escape easily. To me, it seems a little far-fetched. It's too much like something. All right, let's hear Here's one of the theories that are wild and weird. The frat theory. It was just some type of satanic group ritual killing. Then that takes us back to the white Hyundai Elantra theory. We've heard a lot about this car, this mystery car during this case. Seems that there's a lot of evidence pointing towards this car and where to find it. A lot of the theory is that this is the suspect's car, or maybe the police already know who the suspect or suspects are, and the person or people inside that white Elantra have much needed details as to what happened that evening. Now I'll give you my opinion, and I'm purely just speculating, but there have been a few theories that I personally pull towards. The most rational is an ex-boyfriend or friend, and the serial killer theory. If I was to profile the suspect that did this, These would be some of the traits and characteristics of that suspect. Number 1, the suspect knew these girls or had an interaction with them before. This is not a stranger. Number 2, the suspect that did this is very smart and did a significant amount of recon on the house. They methodically planned out this crime. They studied movements, who came and went, and what times people were home and left. Number 3, the suspect came in on foot and made sure that the vehicle they drove was as far away from the home and it was out of reach of any cameras or people that could see it. Number 4, it was a targeted attack. It was definitely a crime of rage and passion to fulfill a fantasy. Number 5, it was personal. The suspect used a knife. The suspect wanted to be close to the victim or victims while inflicting their rage. Now, if I was an FBI profiler and I had to draw a sketch of the suspect, here's what they would look like. I believe it's a large male with great strength, either 20 through their 30s, extreme introvert who was bullied or rejected by women throughout their life. They're an outdoorsman, someone that likes to hunt and is very experienced with knives. They have an obsession with killing and has likely killed or attempted to kill before. They may have an uncontrollable temper or have random bursts of energy and strength. They abuse drugs and alcohol. They have a very obsessive compulsive personality. They planned everything down to its last detail in this crime. I know we all like to speculate, but we truly don't know because we don't have privilege to all the evidence in this case. What are your thoughts? Do you think this was someone the girls knew?
This video got no views.
Leave your comments.
It's a great
below.
video.
I'd love to
That's
hear
what
your
my
feedback.
prediction.
Before we leave, please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification on this channel. And like always,
That's it, guys.
Talk live and talk loud. See you on the next one.
That video got no views. My predictions were very, 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 very. That was on December 25th. That's pretty good. I'm going to drop the stream for tomorrow, guys. Make sure to go in, hit the notify me button. We'll get this chat up to 100 people again tomorrow. 3 hours. You guys are rock stars. 3 hours long, and there's still 80 people watching. That's fantastic. I love all of you. I love all my channel members. I love all my moderators. You guys are the best YouTube fans in the world. You support me. You're here for me. I love all of you. You make this so much worth it. I love it. I love it so much. Guys, click that link for tomorrow. I dropped it in the chat. Hit the notify me button. Let's get this up tomorrow to 100 people in that chat. I want consistently 100 people watching every night. And then when this channel grows, it's going to be 500. It's going to be 1,000. It's going to be 2,000. It's going to be 3,000. But I need all of your help. Hammer says I was pretty on point. I was. It's pretty crazy. 95 likes. You guys are awesome. 95 likes. I love it. Okay, guys. With that being said, I'm going to end the stream for this evening. I love all you. I hope to see you all here tomorrow. I will be back, I promise. And I hope you all will be too. Have a wonderful rest of your night. Have a great Sunday for tomorrow. And we're at 98. If we can just get to 100 likes before I get off, it would be great. Are we at 99? No, we're at 98. I need 2 more people. 2 more people. Let's take a look. Can we do it? 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 I'm going to stay for like 2 more seconds before we go. Before we go. We got 100. We got 100, guys. All right. You guys all have a good night. I love all of you. I will see you all tomorrow. I'm out. Peace. Good night.